Hello and a very warm welcome from the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam on what is a very special day. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. What started in 1975 with just 300 runners has grown into the biggest one-day event in the Netherlands. 75,000 people from 150 different nations will be participating over the weekend. Amsterdam is one of the top 10 marathons in the world. And there's more. We're also celebrating the 750th anniversary of the city of Amsterdam. Yes, a very, very good morning from Amsterdam, from the Olympic Stadium. Chris Dennis and Richard Naruka with you for the next 2 or 3 hours for this 50th anniversary of the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. Richard, a very good morning to you. Conditions out there at the moment, pretty good.
Very good, 9 degrees here now at the stadium, and a very slight wind from the southeast, which means that the runners will feel that as they go along the banks of the river. We're going to have a look now at the course that the runners will be taking over the next couple of hours, starting from the famous Olympic Stadium and heading out through Vondel Park up towards the museum area. Just short of 4 kilometers, they go under the Rijksmuseum and then head down through the business district and wind their way down to the banks of the river Amstel, which gives the city its name. Out to Oudekerk at the turnaround, and then past halfway through the southeast district, and then they loop back round into the centre, over the Amstel, past the Rijksmuseum at 38k, through Vondel Park, and back into the stadium for the finish.
Yes, 42 kilometres lie ahead, and the atmosphere building really nicely here in the Olympic Stadium. It's an expanded weekend, isn't it, Richard? Saturday has become an important day as well in terms of the overall programme.
Yeah, it's the biggest ever race in the event's 50-year history. We had 4 events yesterday, and we've got the 2 big events here today, the marathon going off in a few minutes' time, and then this afternoon the half marathon, with 15,000 participants entered for the half marathon. But this is the main event of the weekend, with over 30,000 runners entered for this race. That's the highest ever number of participants for the marathon. Yesterday they had a very special 7.5 kilometre run to remember the 750th anniversary of the founding of the city of Amsterdam.
Yeah, it was a very, very busy centre of Amsterdam yesterday. There's also been a wonderful book. There is Khalid Shoukoud, the Dutch champion, who will be certainly featuring in our coverage over the next couple of hours. We Finish as One is a wonderful book which has been put together highlighting some of the main moments over the last 50 years of the Amsterdam Marathon. Some wonderful pictures and little anecdotes, and we'll be mentioning a few of those during the course of the programme. So we're here at the start and finish of the Amsterdam Marathon in this iconic Olympic stadium used in 1928. Marathon running, Richard, has had a long history here in Amsterdam.
That's right. I mean, Amsterdam isn't the oldest marathon in the Netherlands. That honour goes to Enschede, which started in 1947. But if we're thinking of modern mass participation marathon running, it was one of the earliest after New York got going in 1970, and then Berlin in 74, and Amsterdam started in May 1975. So just over 50 years ago, and that's why this year's event has that very special feel, coinciding with the 750th anniversary of the city. And we have to think back 50 years when this event started. It was marking the 700th anniversary of the founding of Amsterdam. And we're just now getting these views of the elite athletes assembling at the start. You might have just seen a glimpse of Tom Dumoulin, one of the most famous cyclists to come out of the Netherlands, and they're one of the most famous winners of them all. Haile Gebrselassie, he won here 20 years ago on the 30th anniversary of the race, and he's come back, as have many of the former winners, and Haile will have the honour of starting the race in just a few minutes' time.
Yeah, the elite just being corralled. There is Anne Louten, who's the Dutch women's champion. We'll be seeing a lot of her, I'm sure.
There's Dumoulin running his debut. Well known in the cycling world as the former winner, the Giro d'Italia in 2017. And in recent years, he's switched his attention to running.
So watches are ready, everybody, all the training's done, and the moment is almost upon us. The 50th anniversary of the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. Will be presenting one or two of the elite before we get underway.
And one of the most famous of the athletes in today's race, Joshua Cheptegei, running his third marathon. Remember, Olympic champion over 5,000 metres from the Tokyo Olympics, and then in Paris last year won the 10,000 metres, and that really marked the end of his track career. And in the last year, he's really moved up to the marathon now. There's Sergei Getachew, last year's winner, two-time winner in Amsterdam, ran his PB in 2022, and vowed last year after his second win to come back to defend his title. And there's the leading Dutch athlete, Khalid Shoukoud, now at the age of 39, running his 7th marathon here in Amsterdam. He was 10th last year in a time of 2:09 and 30 seconds.
In the women's race, we have 5 women who've gone sub 2:20, a possible assault on the course record that was set here just 12 months ago, 2:16.52 by Yalanzef Yahualo. She's not here this year. Get a chance maybe to pick out one or two of the leading women. And Louten, we've already mentioned. So much quality on the start line there. F3, that is Bozena Mulati, the Ethiopian. Only made her marathon debut last year. And there is Anne Louten, the sustainable development student at Utrecht University a few years ago. She's a big environmentalist as well as being a world-class marathon runner.
Seen some of the leading Dutch athletes. Remember, it is the Dutch National Marathon Championship here today. They seem to alternate the national championship between Rotterdam and Amsterdam. This year, it's Amsterdam's turn, and so some of the leading Dutch runners here, including Louten in the women's race and Choukoud in the men's race for the Dutch marathon title.
So we're into the final few seconds before the start of this race. A busy period in the calendar for autumn marathons. We had Chicago last weekend, Berlin a few weeks before. We still have New York and Valencia to come. Amsterdam, the 8th fastest officially marathon in the world, and here celebrating its 50th birthday today.
Just behind Khalid Shoukoud, there's Phil Sessamon.
Hailey does the honours. We are underway. The Amsterdam Marathon 2025, celebrating its 50th anniversary, is up and running, and we have 30,000 runners from 150 different nations taking part in this full marathon today, the half marathon this afternoon. And as we mentioned, if we include some walking that was going on yesterday, we're now up to 75,000 people. And Richard, when we reflect on where we started with this event in 1975 with just 300 runners on the day, and when you think that the winner of the women's race that year was given a sewing machine as the prize for her victory, it just shows you culturally and in terms of athletics how far we've come.
Well, I think so many of us in the running world just are amazed at how the marathon boom continues and seems to get bigger and bigger every year. We talked about the marathon boom in the 1980s after so many big city marathons started to take place, but that seems to have continued. It had another boom about 20 years ago, but probably the biggest ever now in participation numbers right across the globe. As you mentioned, Chris, Chicago last week, one of the majors, regularly now seeing participation numbers over 50,000, and New York happening in 2 weeks' time. Also, they saw record numbers last year. So in some ways it's no surprise, but all over the world now we're seeing record numbers. And later today in North America, Toronto will stage its marathon also with record participation numbers. So Amsterdam enjoying this boom, and we're situated here in the stadium. We can see all the runners lined up there, obviously starting in waves, and we'll be crossing the start line over the next 15 minutes.
This is not just about the elite race. We're going to be focusing, of course, to a large extent on the elite races today, but this is all about the message of getting people out, getting them active. And we were chatting, Richard and I, to the director of Le Champion, who have supported this event since 2000, so they have been involved for 25 years now, and he was saying it's all about getting people out and active and participating.
Yeah, Le Champion, it's a non-profit organisation. They've taken over ownership of this event in 2009. They've been involved in the event for the last 25 years, and I think it's in this last 25 years that we've seen not only the growth in participation numbers, but also the improvement in the course record. And today they're also aiming to attack Tamrat Toller's course record set here 4 years ago, 2021. He ran 2:03.39, and there's some of the leading athletes. Gabriel Gaye, he's the fastest athlete. He ran that amazingly fast time 2 years ago in Valencia when he finished second to Kelvin Kiptum, 2:03.00. He's actually the fastest non-Kenyan, non-Ethiopian runner ever at the marathon. And there he is, Gaye, just behind the pacemaker. He actually ran in the Berlin Marathon 4 weeks ago, dropped out because really was struggling with the heat, but today's conditions much more suitable for fast marathon running. We'll be really interested to see how he goes here in Amsterdam for the first time.
There's the leading group then, and in terms of pace, we'll give you at least 5k splits, of course, throughout the race. This leading group going to go through halfway in 61:45, and that would put them on course for course record pace, as Richard was saying. Joshua Cheptegei, interesting, only the third marathon, as you mentioned right at the top of the programme. What effect will Jacob Kiplimo winning in Chicago have had on his fellow teammate there, do you think, for Cheptegei?
Well, Joshua and Jacob have been friends and at times training partners. I mean, if you go back to 2015, they used to train together, and then their camps were separated. But strangely, their training camps are only 25 kilometres away. So clearly they're following each other's progress, and over the last few years, they've had so much success. Cheptegei more on the track and Kiplimo more on the road. But Chris, as you said, that was a very big win for Jacob Kiplimo last week in Chicago, running his second marathon following a very good debut in London earlier this year. Joshua here running his third marathon, and some people would say, well, it was a disappointing start for him when he debuted in Valencia 2 years ago, but we know that over the last 12 months since he won his Olympic title in Paris, he started to focus more on the roads, with the aim of winning another Olympic title in Los Angeles in 3 years' time. So we're not expecting a world record from Cheptegei. I think today we've been speaking with his management agency, and all they're hoping is that he'll just take one step nearer to those super fast times. Remember his PB set earlier this year when he ran 2:05.59 in Tokyo, so probably targeting a time around 2:04, maybe getting close to the course record here from 4 years ago.
Yeah, we were chatting to Jos Hermans, part of his management team, saying he'd significantly increased his mileage over the last 6 months or so, and of course he's making that transition from the track to the road, having won the 10,000 metre title in Paris last year. The second group is going to be on 63-minute pace. They will be obviously just behind, but we're just trying to pick out who's... we've already mentioned Cheptegei. We've got pretty much all the big names, haven't we, in that leading group at 61.45 pace.
Yes, Sergei Getachew, as we mentioned, he's won here twice before. He's just running behind Joshua Cheptegei at the moment, and last year when he won, he came into the race with a slight injury and ran pretty cautiously and just out-sprinted a couple of his opponents as they came into the stadium. So Sergei Getachew trying to win here for the third time, running his 15th marathon. So one of the more experienced marathoners in the field. There's the tall Tanzanian number 2, Gabriel Gete, also very experienced at the marathon. He's run 12 marathons and has just won one of them earlier this year in Daegu. But as we said, he's the fastest athlete in the field with that super fast time from Valencia 2 years ago.
We were just wondering, weren't we, yesterday, whether there'd been a Tanzanian winner in the men's race here in Amsterdam, and actually the answer is yes. John Burra, for those of you with a good memory, won in 1987. You've just picked out Phil Sesterman from Great Britain.
Yeah, so this is the group that is targeting 2:07.30. Khalid Chugut, his best time run 2 years ago, 2:07.37. So they're going to be taken through the halfway in around 63.45. Phil Sesterman, his best time 2:08.04 from Seville in 2024. So 18 months ago, he went to the Olympics in Paris and then had a disappointing run earlier this year in London. And Phil is actually experimenting with a new method this year of running 2 marathons in the space of 7 weeks. He's also entered for the Valencia Marathon on the 7th of December.
How tough is that to do?
Well,
he says,
in the day, you'd have never thought you could run 2 world-class marathons in 7 weeks, but it seems now with the super shoes that is allowing athletes to recover so much more quickly that it is possible. And actually, when Phil ran his best time in Seville in February 2024, that came only 8 weeks after he'd run another 2:08 time in Valencia. So it's definitely becoming more possible. And in the women's race, the leading Dutch athlete Anna Luytjen, she ran in the Tokyo World Championships, which was just 5 weeks ago. So it seems that as though almost anything is possible now with these super shoes.
They're a nice early Sunday morning view of the city of Amsterdam in all its glory. And here they're going through Vondel Park for the first of 2 times. They'll come back through in the latter stages of the race. And of course, that's where the race can often be won and lost. And if you were with us 12 months ago, Sergei Getachew, you may remember he took a wrong turn, almost cost him the race. Barely, 400 metres from the finish, and recovered well. He was determined not to lose the race in that final stage, but he won't make that mistake again today, I'm sure.
Pretty strange, actually, because he had run the race 2 years previously. So Getachew should know this course, and he'll certainly know his way through Vondel Park and down onto the banks of the river Amstel, which is a really well-known feature of this race. And now we're seeing some of the leading women. There's Zeynep Yilmaz, the Ethiopian.
Yeah, we should say that the pace for this leading group of women is 69 minutes through halfway. Course record 2:16.52 we mentioned that was set just last year. 7 Ethiopian winners in the last 10 years. They have dominated, Richard, this race, haven't they? in recent years, in the same way as the men's race, actually, for many years, was dominated by Kenya.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, there's only been 4 Ethiopian men who've won the race in the last 25 years. I mean, we've mentioned Sagai Getachew, and of course, Haile won here 20 years ago. But as you say, on the women's side, the Ethiopian women seem to have really taken this race for their own. If we think back 13 years ago, Tiki Gilana, 14 years ago, sorry, in 2011, Tiki Gilana won here just before winning the Olympic title in London. And more recently, some of the big names like Almaz Ayana, she won here. And then last year, the course record set by Yalamzeth Yohwalo. She ran 2:16.52, and that is a pretty tough record. I think it's the 8th fastest course record of any of the major marathons. And we're now back seeing a much bigger group of the leading men, about 20 athletes setting out at this fast pace, 61:45, trying to make a serious attempt on the course record. I think on the men's side, they feel that the course record is within reach. It's a very, very strong men's elite field. On the women's side, as Chris mentioned, there are 5 women who've gone under 2 hours and 20 minutes. 4 of them are Ethiopian, and they're aiming for around 2:18. Great views of the city of Amsterdam as they pass under the famous Rijksmuseum, the most famous museum in the Netherlands, renovated in 2013. As they pass through the Rijksmuseum, they'll go out onto what's known as Museumplein, Museum Square, which is where the City Museum is, and the Van Gogh Museum. Very famous and much visited. I think the Rijksmuseum has about 2 million visitors every year.
It does, and it is absolutely worth certainly visiting if you haven't done that. One of the must-do things in Amsterdam. I was down there yesterday just having a little spin on the bike going through this very point that the runners are there yesterday. Very, very busy indeed. Tickets are, in fact, still available if you happen to be in Amsterdam today. Remarkably, the museum is still open. Famous, of course, for the night watch, and Milkmaid, amongst others. All the Dutch masters are in there.
So these are the leading group. They've got very, very good pacemaking. Right in the middle of that group of 3 pacemakers, Edwin Kiptu, who is a regular pacemaker here. He's been asked by the organisers to go to 30K, just as he did last year. And I really think it's a good sign that the organisers of the elite race, they bring together some really good pacemakers. 25 pacemakers in total across the 2 elite races.
Keep an eye on the first 5K split. We can tell you that the split for Tamarit Tola's course record was 14:33 back in 2021. So we will be able to keep you abreast of how they're doing on course record in both the men's and the women's race. So the time we're looking out for at 5K is 14:33. And this looks to be pretty lively, this pace. Some excellent pacemaking led by Edwin Kiptu, as you say. How much an advantage, Richard, for people who've run the course before? We shouldn't take it for granted that yeah, they'll have done their familiarisation, but how much extra does it give you if you've actually physically run the race before?
Well, I think a really strong feature of this course is the out and back section on the banks of the Amstel. They'll hit the Amstel just short of 14 kilometres, and then they go out for about 6 kilometres to the turnaround point at Oudekerk, and they will have a little bit of a headwind on that stretch between 14 and 20K, and then when they turn around and head past through halfway, they'll start to feel a little bit of a tailwind, which takes them back into the business district, and then they'll start to come back through into the city centre. So I do think it is an advantage, because they'll have parts of the course with a lot of spectators, and then parts particularly between 26 and 30 kilometres, which is quite quiet, and that's often the place where the pacemakers drop out.
So there you can see the blue arch. That signals at 5 kilometres, so we'll get an early sign of how we're doing. And it looks to me, Richard, as though they're almost exactly on course record pace, perhaps just a little outside after 5 kilometres.
You're getting the first split up, 14:38 through 5 kilometres. Very big group, including the big hitters. Gabriel Gete from Tanzania, Joshua Cheptegei, Sagai Getachew, and another very fast Ethiopian, Gatani Mulla, who ran what was the fastest ever debut when he ran it in Dubai. He ran 2:03.34. Since been bettered by the likes of Kelvin Kiptum when he ran that very fast time in Valencia.
Khalid Choukoud there just seems to turn up, doesn't he, Richard, every single year, just about in Amsterdam. So their confirmation of the splits at 5 kilometres.
A few of those names, number 3 and number 4, they are pacemakers, and Edwin
number 1, yeah,
Edwin, that's right, Edwin Kiptu. So the 3 pacemakers doing a good job. We're expecting at least a couple of them to stay in the race to 25k and hopefully up until 30k. These are the leading women. There's Zainab Yima in the yellow and white, trying to get her drink. Now, some of these leading athletes, they won't be picking up their drinks from the drinks table. They've actually got some bikers who are running or going ahead of them and passing them the drinks. But it looks as though Zainab has missed her first drink. There's Borzana Mulati.
Yeah, there was a little section of the technical meeting yesterday that always precedes these big city marathons, and there's always a big section on drink stations, how it works with photographs. And even yesterday I thought quite nicely, this is what not to do, and they gave a couple of examples of people who had not picked up their drink as they should have done, just as a warning and a reminder of how important it is. And sadly, Yima, we're going to see it again here. Sadly, this is going to go on the show reel, isn't it, of how to miss a drink.
Yes, I think the organisers have put in these bikers to hand out the drinks individually to about 5 or 6 athletes in each of the 2 elite races. And clearly, Zainab wasn't expecting her own personal biker to be exactly where he was, and so missed her. But the leading women have gone through in 16:31.
That's just outside Ihualo's course record of last year. These are very early stages, of course. We shouldn't get too carried away after 5 kilometres, but it is an early indication of how they're doing. So they're about 14 seconds at 5 kilometres off course record pace.
And that just highlights what we were saying earlier, that it looks as though it's going to be the Ethiopian athletes who will dominate the women's race. 9 of the 10 athletes through the first 5k in the women's race from Ethiopia.
It is almost pancake flat. There are just 1 or 2 little relative inclines just to normally to go over the canals and the River Amstel. And the biggest test, and we're some way off that yet, but you've already alluded to it, Richard, is obviously the stretch along the Amstel out towards Oudekerk. And today we're expecting, as always, a section of headwind that can be quite draining.
Yeah, I was talking with Jos Hermans a couple of weeks ago about the course, and he said that for the last 2 or 3 years, the organisers, Le Champion, have been in talks with the city administration to try and get an even faster course, which is a little bit hard to imagine because it's so flat. But I think the concern is always when runners come here that they might hit some of the wind on the banks of the river, and particularly in that stretch which heads south to the turnaround point. And I think the organisers are looking to take out a section of the course which goes along the river somehow, so that they run north only along the banks of the river, and somehow miss out that section, which they'll do today between 14k and Oudekerk, which is when they'll hit that very slight headwind today. It's about 11 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, but of course they get it back later on with a slight tailwind as they go back north, having crossed over the Amstel. At the moment, they're just working their way down south towards what is going to be a mini loop. They'll come back on themselves before they eventually wend their way towards the Amstel River.
Yeah, this part of the city, it's very well known. It's a bit like the Chelsea of Amsterdam, a very wealthy part of the city, Amsterdam Zuid, where some of the big law firms are, the financial district of Amsterdam. And we've talked about the 750th anniversary of Amsterdam, and we shouldn't forget that this was one of the great trading capitals of the world in its golden era in the 17th century. It was the first city to have a multinational company, the famous Dutch East Indies Company, founded right at the start of the 17th century, which really set up the global trade in spices and in so many agricultural products from both Asia and from the East Indies.
They're the 5K splits for the leading Dutch women, Mickey Kietels. An interesting story. We'll bring you that in just a moment or two. Anne Lowton just a little bit further behind. Jill Holterman, these are familiar names who've contested and competed here in Amsterdam on numerous occasions. Anne Lowton, the Dutch champion. This is her second appearance here in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it's quite ambitious, I would say, for Anne Lowton to come back so soon after her 17th place finish in Tokyo 5 weeks ago. She won the Dutch marathon title in Rotterdam in April of 2024, and I think that's really the main attraction for her, to see if she can come out top amongst those group of 5 or 6 strong Dutch women. She's the only athlete to have Dutch athlete to have gone under 2:28. Her best time set here in Amsterdam 2 years ago when she ran 2:26.36. I somehow doubt that she'll go that fast today because this is her 3rd marathon of 2025. But definitely she would start as the favourite for the Dutch national marathon title today.
Yeah, Dutch championships being contested today, as always. So the leading men, and then back to the leading women, just through 6 kilometres. This is the leading group. We haven't mentioned Waganesh Mikasha, also from Ethiopia. There is Kietels. She was also a contributor to this wonderful coffee table book, the large book that we mentioned earlier on, Finish as One, which has been put together quite beautifully. And Mickey Kietels has made a contribution to that. Well worth a read. Just fascinating seeing some of the big names that we've had. Gerard Nijboer, who's here, 4-time winner.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only 4-time winner of this race. Won in 1980, 84, 88 and 89. And if we think back 45 years when he won in 1980, that time 2:09.01, that was, well, it was the Dutch record for over 20 years. And another person who features heavily in that book is the current Dutch national record holder, Abdi Negea, not running here today. He'll be running in New York in 2 weeks' time, but he ran that super fast time in London in April, 2:04.20. So Nijboer's record has been reduced by almost 5 minutes in the 45 years since his first victory here. But Chris, as you mentioned, so many of the former winners in both the men's and women's race here. Lorna Kiplagat is here, Hailey's here, Cor Vriend, a famous Dutch athlete who won here in 82 and 83, as well as Nijboer. And we also ought to mention the famous athletes from the 1970s.
Yes, yes, absolutely right. Yes, so much history and so much has been put into this, not just today, but the weekend overall. It's a big first, and the organisers, we were chatting to René Witt, the race director, yesterday, and they're hoping and discussing with the city of Amsterdam and all the authorities, hoping to retain as many elements of this expanded weekend as possible moving forward, so that it isn't just a one-off this year to coincide with the 50th anniversary. So the Saturday, in some ways, Richard, I think it takes a little bit of the pressure logistically, doesn't it, off the Sunday afternoon, the half marathon, by having other events, expanded events on the Saturday.
Yes, I mean, the children's run typically has taken place while the marathon's been on the Sunday morning. This year they switched the children's run to the Saturday, There was a breakfast run, and then there was the children's run, and then there was the heroes run for disabled athletes, and then the 7.5 run. So 4 events taking place in Amsterdam here yesterday, and then the 2 big, in terms of participation numbers, the 2 big races, the marathon this morning and then the half marathon this afternoon. But and Chris, you did also mention the walk that took place as well. So if we included that, that's a total of 75,000 participants across the 2 days of competition. And Le Champion really excel in this mass participation sport, because they also stage cycling races across Holland, as well as many other big city races across the country, including the Egmond half marathon, one of Holland's very famous half marathon races that takes place in January. There is one of the Kenyan athletes, Shadrach Kimening. He's gone off with the leaders, although he only has a best time of 2:08, so he's taking a bit of a gamble going off with this very fast pace set by the leading group.
Yeah, approaching 9 kilometres. We'll bring you the 10k split. The mark to look out for is 29:10. That's the course record 10k split from Tamarit Tola. Tola, incidentally, was, I think, an early entry for today in Amsterdam, wasn't he? He pulled out with a stress fracture quite some time ago, so not able to come back and try and improve on his own course record. Women there through 8 kilometres. Yima, one of that leading group. And there is, just right of picture there, Makesha. We mentioned her just a moment ago. Makesha making her debut here, her 20th marathon. She's done a lot of marathon running. She won Osaka last year, then Toronto last year as well, and then Osaka for the second time. So she's won 3 of her last 5 marathons.
Yeah, I mean, she's been running marathons for over 10 years. She debuted in Singapore in 2014 in a time of 2:46. And Chris, as you mentioned now, she's reduced her PB to 2 hours and 20 minutes, almost exactly a year ago, because she ran that time in Toronto. And as we mentioned earlier, the Toronto Marathon takes place later today. So she's definitely one of the leaders. And there's Tom Dumoulin, as we mentioned, one of the most famous cyclists of from Holland. Twice finished second at the Grand Tour, once in the Tour de France in 2018 and once in the Giro, and his greatest victory of all was in the Giro d'Italia in 2017. So Tom Dumoulin retired from World Tour cycling 3 years ago, and now at the age of 34 is running his first marathon here in Amsterdam.
And he's doing so with the leading women. That's quite the pace, isn't it? Going through in 69 is the intention. So left of picture, lead men approaching 10 kilometres. A reminder, 29:10 is the 10k split. And at 5 kilometres, we had a group of roughly 20, as many as that 20, all pretty much there together. I think that's whittled down a little bit. We'll find out when we come through 10 kilometres. So left of picture, we've got the men on their way, and of course the many waves of the masses on the right-hand side just continuing. And they continue just breaking away from pictures. We're still in the Olympic Stadium. We've still got thousands of people waiting, just shuffling inch by inch towards the start line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any other big city marathon that starts and finishes in the stadium. So it is a huge operational feat to start over 30,000 runners here in the stadium, and then they'll be coming back here over the next 3-4 hours. And this is a great part of the course that we're seeing on our screens now, as the leading men head down to the banks of the River Amstel and past some of the well, I don't want to call them slow runners, but they are compared to the speed at which these the leading men are going as they come through the 10-kilometre point.
Almost again bang on target. We'll get the split almost instantly, but it looks to be just a couple of seconds perhaps outside the course record 10k split from 4 years ago. 29:10 that was.
I mean, Chris, just thinking back to that course record set by Tola 4 years ago, he ran There they are. They've gone through in 29:16, so marginally outside Tamat Tola's time when he won here 4 years ago. But I think a feature of Tola's course record when he set that 2:03.39 was the speed at which he ran between 30k and 40k.
Yeah.
He ran a 10k split in 28:52. So that is really when not only the race is won and lost, but it's when the fast times are really the chance of getting a fast time. It really happens over that final quarter of the distance. This is the group with Khalid Shugud, the leading Dutch athlete, and just in front of him Phil Sesserman, and at the back of that group Niels Voigt, running his second marathon, now coached by Isabel Baumann, one of the leading coaches in German athletics. Niels is one of Isabel's first marathon athletes, but he ran his debut in Valencia at the end of last year and is here now running his second marathon, trying to improve on that time of 2 hours and 10 minutes and try to get close to some of the fast times set by Ringer, the top one of the top German athletes.
So there we are, the 5 and 10k splits respectively. So just slipping away a little bit off course record pace, but only by a matter of 7 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that, but as Richard mentioned, it was the section between 30 and 40 kilometres that did the damage. Worth mentioning that Tamat Tola in 2021 did an impressive negative split. For those of you not familiar with that term, it's when you run the second half of a marathon quicker than the first. He went through halfway in 62:11 and came home in 61:28, so that's worth bearing in mind as well.
So on the left of our screen, we see number 2, Gabriel Geye, really leading the resurgence of Tanzanian distance running. Just 5 weeks ago, we saw Alphonse Simbu, Gabriel Gaye's friend and training partner, win the World Championship Marathon. And
what a finish that was.
What a finish it was, absolutely. Just outdipped the German Emmanuel Petros. But Geye, the fastest Tanzanian national record holder, and what an ambassador he is for the sport. He's set up a foundation to promote distance running and running, you know, for younger athletes from the town of Mudunga. Did quite a lot of his training in Arusha, which is very well known in Tanzania as a place for altitude training, but actually in the last year Geye has gone back to his hometown of Mudunga, which is at 2,300 meters, set up a training camp, and is really trying to promote distance running for younger athletes. So a great ambassador for the sport in Tanzania, and with Simbu and himself is leading this revival in Tanzanian distance running.
Women just through 10 kilometres, again a fairly large group with all the big names in there. Just waiting for confirmation of the split. Again, just outside course record pace. Yahualo from last year, 32:22. 32:42. Yima and Makasha, Welde, Mulati all going through. So yeah, about 20 seconds off course record pace through 10 kilometres. So as you mentioned, I think that course record from last year was pretty tasty. Top 10 all time.
Yes, it was. And I mean, last year Yahualo, she ran quite a lot of the second half of the race on her own. She went through in just outside 68 minutes and then slowed a little bit in the second half. So even if they are behind the pace that Janzov set last year, they could still finish quite quickly and get near to that course record, 2:16.52. But I think the really interesting thing about today's elite women's race is that we've got about 6 or 7 athletes who we're seeing in this leading group who are going to be really competitive with each other. It's a big title to win. Zainab Yimur, she won in Barcelona. Her best time actually goes back to Berlin 2 years ago when she finished 4th in 2:19:07. And as we mentioned, 4 or 5 of the leading women have already run under 2 hours and 20 minutes.
There's just a brief side of Sonota, Kenya's Sonota, one of the few Japanese runners in the men's race, making his debut here. A rare race for him outside of Japan. He's a regular at the Tokyo Marathon, finished in 19th place early this year. It's a 2:05:59 man, so again, good to see Amsterdam attracting international elite runners. You can see from the trees as well, there's barely a breath of wind at this stage, and they're being quite nicely sheltered by the buildings on either side. That'll change, of course, when they get out into the relative exposed area of the Amstel.
Yes, they'll hit the banks of the Amstel in about 4 or 5 minutes time, because they hit the banks at about 30.5k and they're through 12.2k. Now back with the leading women, and Zeynep Yima did get her drink at the 10-kilometre point, so that'll be a big relief to her, having missed the drink at 5 kilometres, but still quite a lot of congestion for those leading women there. Obviously 7 or 8 of the leading women alongside, running with not only some of the pacemakers but some of the other male runners, including, as you mentioned, Chris, Tom Dumoulin, who's on target for a time of under 2 hours and 20 minutes here in his first marathon in Amsterdam.
Just going back to the drink station thing, a little innovation that Berlin introduced there a few weeks ago, covering the Berlin Marathon. They decided it would be good to actually have a horn which is sounded 500 meters before the drink station, so there's an audible warning sign, a really loud shot of the hooter, if you like, and that says to the athletes, take notice, be on your guard, be alert, the drink station is 500 meters away. And they thought that was just quite a nice way of just reminding, for all the briefings and all the talk during the technical meetings, if there's just a little audible reminder, and it'll be interesting to see if other big city marathons take that on board as well.
It's quite interesting because, I mean, I think there's plenty of signage on this course, as on many other courses, saying 100 meters ahead will be the first drink station. But obviously, when you're running at speed and you're also in a group, it's often some of those signs that you'll miss, and then the drinks table or your personal drink will be on you before you know it. And I think we've seen that already in today's women's race.
So men approaching 13 kilometres, and as you say, Richard, they'll be getting their first sight of the River Amstel very shortly indeed. And there is Gay, who dropped out of Berlin a few weeks ago. You mentioned that earlier on. Nothing particularly troubling, I think, about that. It was an incredibly warm day, as people may remember if you were watching the coverage there in September. Disappointed but not defeated was the way he summarised it at the end, Gay.
Yeah, I was speaking with his manager, Derek Froud, and he said that that's the one thing that Gay really struggles with. It's the heat. He's dropped out of a few marathons when the temperature has been high, and that's why he struggled in Berlin. But he's come into this in good shape after he dropped out of Berlin. He went back home, did a good final block of training, and he's come here full of confidence, and I'm sure hopes to get close to his best time set in Valencia 2 years ago. So we're seeing Shugut. I've seen him so many times here in Amsterdam, twice run his best time in the marathon 2 years ago, and also 3 years ago. So trying to do that again, come into the race with a best of 2:07:37, which he actually set in Valencia just under 2 years ago. There's the leading group of 18 athletes, led by the 3 pacemakers at the front, and then 15 athletes behind them, including some of the favourites. There's right at the back of that group, number 15 is Afewerk Mesfin from Ethiopia.
different complexion on the course already, isn't it? Much greener. They've left the relative density of the buildings of the city of Amsterdam. We're still pretty central here, make no mistake, but here a lovely Sunday morning scene, and there they have on their left, as we look, as right as we look at the pictures, but on their left, the River Amstel. That'll be their companion for the next, 10-15 kilometres, both on this side, and then they'll cross over and come back on the other side.
That's right, they're on the west side of the river as they head south. We'll see quite a few rowing boats out on the river. So many of the rowing clubs that are stationed very near to the city centre, a little bit north of where the athletes are now. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, Chris, if we see that the flyboarding, which I think is brought out as a demonstration here for marathon weekend.
Yeah, it's worth seeing if you haven't seen it. So at the moment, they're still relatively sheltered. The windy section is still to come, isn't it? It's in a couple of kilometres' time before they then turn at Oudekerk, the famous windmill. Next split we're looking out for is at 15k, 43.59, just under 44 minutes for 15 kilometres was the course record, Tola's course record of 2021. Some rather nice properties, waterside, riverside properties as well, that we marvel at every year.
So we're back with some of the female athletes, including the leading Dutch women. Mieke Kietels going through 10k in 34.51, and she's actually the first, the leading Dutch female athlete, ahead of Anna Leutjen and Jill Holterman. So Kietels just running her second marathon and is already half a minute up on Leutjen. Remember, the Dutch national marathon title up for grabs here, and it would be a bit of a surprise if Kietels can claim that title. There's another of the well-known athletes in the field, Lorna Salpeter, now well past her best, but has had an amazing career since she started running for Israel, got Israeli citizenship just before the Rio Olympics and competed in Rio, and then won the European 10,000 metre title in 2018, and has since gone on to win a bronze medal at the World Championship Marathon in Eugene, but now past her best and some way back from the leading women in the elite women's race.
Yeah, 36 years old now as well, Peter. So, approaching 15 kilometres. These are the scenes on a lovely autumnal Sunday morning in Amsterdam. Bright, a little bit breezy, as we've said, but certainly no rain. Totally dry, none is forecast for the entire day. And the temperature at the finish is expected to be around 10 or 11 degrees. So these are good running conditions, not just for the elite, but for the masses as well.
Yeah, and just thinking about that elite group, we've said there's almost 18 athletes in this group, and I think quite a few of these athletes are taking a bit of a gamble running at such a fast pace in the first half. There's Anna Leutjen. As we said, she ran the World Championship Marathon 5 weeks ago, had a great run there, finished 17th in a time of 2 hours and 32. Just a minute slower than the time she ran in Rotterdam in April. And she's got a good number of male athletes around who are setting the pace. Number 25, one of the pacemakers for Anna Leutjen.
Yeah, Niels Ijsmeyer. There was some good banter going on, actually, just as we were leaving the hotel this morning. Anna Leutjen was just standing a little bit behind me, and she was in great form. Men going through 15 kilometres. Now, course record 43.59. Almost bang on the money. 44 seconds dead. This is exceptional pacemaking by the leading pacemakers.
So they'll have another 4 kilometres along the banks of the river going south. and then they'll cross over the bridge at Utrecht and Amstel, and then start to head north and head back towards the city centre. But running very fast. That's one of the famous windmills. That may be the Riekemolen from the 17th century. So many of the windmills that are situated on the banks of the Amstel are still in operation.
It's incredible, isn't it? And this is just one of dozens and dozens of events as we look at the leading Dutchman about to hit 15 kilometres with Choucroute there in that group. There he is in the orange vest, just outside 45.15 for Choucroute at 15 kilometres. It's been a whole year of celebrations of the 750th anniversary of the city of Amsterdam. There's been theatre and comedy and street events and food. It really has been, and so the Amsterdam Marathon is just one of a number of ways in which the anniversary for the city itself has been celebrated. It's a real coming together. There's lots of publicity if you're out and about in the city of Amsterdam. It really is. And when you think that it was a fishing village at the mouth of the Amstel where we are now, founded in 1275, that was the first real identification of Amsterdam, and didn't become the capital of the Kingdom of the Netherlands until 1815. So much has happened.
Yeah, it's had a great history, hasn't it, over 750 years. Probably not as old as the capitals of Paris, Rome, London and Athens, but I think as a trading centre, and really as a city more recently of art and creativity, probably known as one of the most liberal and one of the most open and welcoming cities in Europe, and attracts so many tourists every year, and today has attracted participants from over 150 countries.
Yeah, sorry, Richard. Just confirmation there of the splits. Just a single second outside course record pace. So this is terrific metronomic pacemaking by the likes of Edwin Kiptu and his teammates. They do a brilliant job. They get well paid, don't they? Let's not hide the fact they are paid to do a job, and it's a good job, a difficult job, and one that is done really well, taken very seriously.
Yeah, it's so important that they don't go off too fast. They're obviously gone off at a good pace, but this is exactly what the organisers wanted, for them to go through halfway in around 61:45, 62 minutes, and if they can, if the leading athletes can keep that pace going, they're going to get very close to Tola's course record, 2:03.39.
One or two twists and turns in the Amstel. Choucroute there just checking where he is. Went through 15k in just outside 45 minutes. The next split we'll bring you is the women's 15-kilometre split. There was a group of 7 who went through 10k. Leading men still around 18, so still all the big names in that group. Choucroute, though, looking very good at the age of 39. Much an evergreen athlete, isn't he?
Yeah, it just amazes me how he keeps coming back to this race. We saw him in 2022. He ran his best time here, 2:09.34, and then he came back the following year, ran his best time here, finished 9th. And he ran 2:08.36, and since then he's lowered his best time to 2:07.37. Now at the age of 39, attempting to go even faster.
So women approaching the 15-kilometre mark. As I say, group of 7 all together at 10 kilometres. 48.32 is the course record. They're just drifting more and more away from that. So at the moment in the women's race, the course record, as things stand, looks pretty safe for Yanemzef Yahualo from last year.
So just to identify some of those leading women, Bosna Mulati in F3, and then Zeynep Yilmaz, also from Ethiopia, in F4. And and also Burçkan Waldi, coached by Tessema Abshiro. She's running here, having won in Prague earlier this year.
And just a word about F7, Mick, it is Shimilis, a debutant, one of the few debutants here at full marathon level. Ran a half marathon personal best of 68:17 in March here in the Netherlands, so this is unknown territory for her. Incidentally, women have just dropped a few more seconds against course record. They were 20 seconds down at 10 kilometres. They're now 32 seconds off course record pace, so just slowing up. The men almost exactly on the money at 15 kilometres in terms of course record.
So we're back with the leading men. You can see on the right of the screen in the white Asics vest is Sergei Getachew. The taller figure right in the middle, just behind the three pacemakers, Gabriel Ge'e and Joshua Cheptegei, one of today's race favourites, just at the back of that group. Just to reflect a little bit on his career, I mean, Cheptegei has had an amazing track career since he won the World Junior title over 10,000 metres back in 2014, right through until he won that his second Olympic title in Paris last year over 10,000 metres. I think we're just going to see what happened at the front of the women's race there. Ayn Alem Desta right in the foreground, almost tripping over one of the male runners. One of the leading Ethiopians here, Zainab Yima, there just behind pacemaker number 14. That's Bernard Cheptoch from Kenya, who's leading the leading women through at about 69-minute pace.
Yeah, that group of 7 went through 10k together in the women's race, have also gone through 15. There are the flyboarders that Richard mentioned. Ever had a go?
Never had a go, but I was speaking with a local friend yesterday, and he said those flyboarders only come out for marathon weekend. They're not a regular feature. So
this is not regular Sunday morning stuff.
I don't think so. I think the regular stuff is either the runners or the cyclists, or if we're thinking the activity on the water, it's the rowers. And of course, Holland is one of the very strong rowing nations in the world. But always nice to see the flyboarders out, almost as a celebration of this event.
It is. I can't help wondering, if you're one of the elite runners there, are you even aware of it? Are you so in the zone that you're just concentrating on the job at hand, or does it give you a little moment of light relief? You just look across to your left and see this going on in the river. I wonder.
I think they're pretty firmly focused forward, and as they were being encouraged to do yesterday, just to follow the pacemakers, because they might actually be into a very, very slight headwind at this point of the race.
Yeah, and if they start to slip off course record pace just by a few seconds, we shouldn't get too anxious about that, because it's exactly that this is the section where they will meet the stiffest of headwinds, but they will get the benefit, of course, of a tailwind once they've crossed the river and they start to make their way back on the other side. So anything they lose, in theory, they could make up comfortably later on in the race.
One of the other leading athletes, we mentioned him already, Getani Molla from Ethiopia, ran an incredibly fast debut in Dubai 6 years ago, but this year has had a very good year, finished 5th in Osaka in 2:06:04, and then won his last marathon in China in Lanzhou in May, running 2:11:45. So Molla there, number 4, nicely situated just behind that front group of pacemakers. Another great view of one of the old windmills on the east side of the river.
Just going back to the winner last year, Sergei Getachew, who is aiming to win for a 3rd time. There aren't that many people who've won this race on 3 or more occasions. Wilson Chebet, we should mention as well, is a 3-time winner, as well as Gerhard Neubauer, who won 4 times. So this would be a big deal today for Getachew, were he to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think Getachew, he has run a few of the World Marathon Majors, more notably in Tokyo. He finished third in Tokyo in 2024, but it seems as though he's really targeted this race. I think obviously for any runner to come and win here in Amsterdam, it's a big achievement, and Getachew, having won here twice already, I think said to his manager earlier this year, Malcolm Anderson, he wanted to come back and honour his promise to come and defend his title. And yeah, you'd have to say that his experience over this course does make him certainly one of the favourites.
Well, Joshua Cheptegei there, the taller figure wearing the headband, centre of picture. Is another one of the big names we've been mentioning. They're the Dutch women through 15 kilometres, and that's an appreciable advantage at the moment, isn't it, for Mickey Keitels? That we're so slightly surprised about that. And Leuten almost a minute behind as the second Dutch woman, the Dutch champion.
Yeah, I mean, Keitels' best time is almost 8 minutes slower than Anna Leuten, who ran her best time here 2 years ago. So it may be that Leuten is, well, either running very cautiously or possibly also struggling from having just come out of the World Championship Marathon, where she ran that really good race to get into the top 20 in the World Championships in Tokyo. So this is where the runners at 19 kilometres just come away very briefly from the banks of the river. They'll loop back on themselves and then cross over the bridge here at Oudekerk and Amstel, and then start to head north and go back through the halfway point. This is where they go left and then left again over the bridge.
Can't really pick it up from the pictures, but this will be into a headwind for another kilometre, almost a kilometre before they cross over, as Richard said. The next split, of course, is 20 kilometres coming up. They were almost spot on for pace at 15. The women drifting off course record pace outside 30 seconds on Johoala's course record from last year.
So just to talk a little bit more about Joshua Cheptegei, an amazing career he's had over the last 11 years. Really won that Olympic title in Tokyo in 2021, when I think he was a bit disappointed not to claim the 10,000 metre title won by the Ethiopian Solomon Barega, but then came back to win the 5,000 metre title a few days later, and then won the World Championship 10,000 metre title both in Oregon in 22 and in Budapest in 2023, and then really focused on winning the 10,000 metre gold medal in Paris, which he did in a very tight race just over 12 months ago. But really, over the last 12 months, with his training group and his management team, is really focused on the marathon. And Jos Hermans was telling us that he was a bit disappointed in Tokyo just earlier this year not to go any faster. He ran 2:05.59, sort of ran out of energy at the 30-kilometre point, but hoping that today there is at the back of the group that he will go a bit faster. Has gradually been picking up his mileage. When he ran in Valencia 2 years ago, I was there commentating at that race, and he really struggled over the second half. The race went out incredibly fast, but at that point he was only running about 130 kilometres a week, which is a very, very low volume for a serious marathon runner at this level.
Was that because he was also in transition? He was still running on the track at that time, and he didn't probably want to overcommit.
Yes, it was. I mean, Yuri van der Velden, who was managing him at the time, he said it was really a bit of a distraction for Joshua. Just wanted a little bit of a new motivation at the start of his Olympic build-up. So it wasn't really a serious attempt at the marathon. And there, we just saw Joshua picking up his drinks bottle from his personalised bottle handler at the 20-kilometre point. There they are through 20 kilometres, 58.56.
Well, they're just a smidgen inside course record pace now, so they've picked it up very, very slightly And the good news for them is they've now passed the most southerly point on the entire course. They've crossed over the Amstel, and now they have the river on their left, as you can see, and they're now running north, and they will have a little tailwind just buffeting them along. So if anything, they'll be able to pick it up even more from here. 58.56 through 20 kilometres. That is pretty consistent running. The pacemaking absolutely perfect.
Absolutely perfect, and it never ceases to amaze me. Edwin Kiptoo comes back here year after year to do the pacemaking job, and he's still there at the front of the race.
He's a race director's dream, really.
He is. He's so reliable. But we'll see, I think, over the next half hour, we'll see how far the pacemakers can go. Kiptoo still in there. The other two pacemakers, Jonathan Kamasong and Mike Chematot. So 3 Kenyan pacemakers doing a really good job right at the front of the race. This is the third group. Phil Sessamon just a few strides ahead of Khalid Shugud, targeting this 2:07:30. Shugud ran the Olympic marathon in Paris, finished 58th last year. Phil Sessamon has had a really good block of training. Many of you might have been following him on YouTube, trying to improve on his best time, 2:08:04, under the guidance of his coach, Andy Henderson. Andy is out here. He'll be out on the course following Sessamon, and Phil hoping to go under 2:08 for the first time in his marathon career, and also planning to run in Valencia in 7 weeks' time.
Yeah,
He's one of the Eritrean athletes. Merawi Keseta finished second in Mumbai at the start of this year, but one of the more experienced marathon runners, has run 15 marathons coming here into Amsterdam. Already run here in Amsterdam 4 years ago.
Sonata just starting to perhaps find this pace a little bit lively. Cheptegei was at the back of that group of 18, remember, and I was just starting to wonder whether he was also starting to feel it, but no problem at all. He's now very much in the thick of that group of 18, approaching the halfway point. And a reminder, 61:45 was the desired pace for halfway, and they've just slipped off that a little bit by the look of it as they go through in just outside 62.
Yeah, well, Chris, you mentioned earlier that when Tamaktola set the course record here, he went through in a very similar time, and then came home. The second half of the race was that bit faster than the first half, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see that today, and certainly they're going to have to finish faster if they're going to get anywhere near that course record. But still a very big group of around 17 athletes right at the front of the race.
Is that pretty par for the course at this stage of the race to have that number? Feels quite large. It's on the large side.
It is. I think we'll see that probably this leading group will thin out over the next 10 kilometres, and then obviously in the final quarter. But the good news for the leading athletes is that the 3 pacemakers are there. But for the first time, Gabriel Gehe has actually taken 1 or 2 strides in front of the pacemakers, almost as though he is wanting to pick up the pace.
Well, their confirmation of the halfway split, 62:15, so 4 seconds outside course record pace, but that's no bad thing. And it's interesting that 61:45, which was the figure mentioned at the technical meeting. Now then, who have we lost here? Number 53 is looking for the car to take him back. He's looks as though he's dropped out of the race at one of the furthest points from the finish line.
Well, I think there has been an acceleration of pace because, rather surprisingly, Edwin Kiptoo, one of the 3 pacemakers, is no longer there, and I think they've just been left with 1 pacemaker. That's Mike Chematot from Kenya, and Gabriel Gehe is having a word with Chematot. and clearly I think wants to pick the pace up. And Chris, just as you mentioned earlier, this leading group of about 16, 17 athletes has suddenly
splintered,
yeah, quite seriously. But the favourites are still up there. But some of the ones like Mesvin Negusi, number 17, is starting to struggle. That leading group of 15 athletes, I think, is thinned out to about 6 or 7, and Joshua Cheptegei running in about 10th place, right at the back of that group, still in contact. Number 8 there is the Kenyan Jeffrey Torotich Kipchumba. But Cheptegei still looking relaxed. He's got a bit more experience now, running his 3rd marathon compared to when he ran in Valencia 2 years ago. But he's having to work hard because the Tanzanian Gete is really starting to pick up the pace and push that pacemaker to run even faster as they head into the second half of the race. There's Tom Dumoulin alongside the leading women.
Yeah, coming through 20 kilometres. We'll get the split for you. They were quite some distance off course record pace. A group of 7 last time we checked in, and it looks as though almost all of them, including Tom Dumoulin, is in there as well. Kasha, we can see. Yima, so 65.30. So almost a minute off course record pace. Group of 7 of them there, still intact. But going back to the men, that dramatic shift with that group of 18 being splintered very quickly, you got the impression that Gay was impatient. You saw him in animated discussion. There he is in the lilac behind the pacemaker, really quite animatedly talking to the pacemaker, and you can only speculate, but it seemed to me that, right, we've got to pick this up from here.
Yeah, he looked a little bit impatient, and I just wonder, he's probably feeling very good. Probably a bit disappointed coming out of Berlin, where he dropped out. It was very, very warm conditions today, near perfect conditions for Gete, and as we've mentioned a few times already, Gete is the fastest athlete in the field with a time of 2:03.00. I doubt that he'll get near to that today, but certainly one of the athletes capable of a serious attempt on the course record, 2:03.39. It is Gete who's right behind the pacemaker. There's about 8 athletes in there. Cheptegei at the back of that group in the orange vest. Shifarao Andualam Shifarao, one of the leading Ethiopian athletes, 2:04.44. His best time from Berlin 2 years ago. So some very fast athletes still in that leading group. Sergei Getachew, best time of 2:04.49 when he won here 3 years ago. He's still in there. So our 3 leading athletes, our 3 favourites, are still in that leading group, being led by the pacemaker, number 3, Mike Chemotot of Kenya. They've got about another 3 kilometres along the banks of the river, just short of 26 kilometres. They'll turn off the Amstel and head into the southeast district of Amsterdam.
That's always a good sign wherever you're running in the world, to hear a steel band or some sort of musical accompaniment. It really just makes the heart sing and just lifts you perhaps through a difficult moment. There's the scene on the opposite bank of the Amstel, and I can tell you now, just moving away from pictures, that the Olympic Stadium is now emptied of runners. So everybody who wanted to start the race, 30,000 plus, are now out on the course somewhere. And these are the leading men, a group of 8, as Richard was saying. And that was quite dramatic, wasn't it? They passed through the halfway point as a group of 18 or so, and then all of a sudden Gay just said, right, let's hit the accelerator and just let's get this thing moving.
Yeah, it looks as though the pace has just slowed down, because that group of 8, I think another couple of athletes have joined that group, so there's 10 of them there now. And I just wonder, as they went through halfway, there was definitely an acceleration, but now they seem to be back into more of a rhythm. And a few of those athletes, like number 21, Benson Tunyo from Kenya has rejoined that group. So about 10 athletes together. They were highlighting the Tanzanian, Gabriel Gete, ran his best 3 years ago, 2:03.00, when he finished second to Kelvin Kiptum, when Kiptum ran the fastest ever debut, 2:01.53. Since then, Gete has won his first marathon in Daegu earlier this year, 2:05.20, and also won the Boston 10K in June. So he's had a very good year, despite dropping out of the Berlin Marathon 5 weeks ago.
And he lists his favourite dish as gali. It was on the menu last night, wasn't it? So he'd have been pleased to have stocked up on that.
Yeah, I think Gete is clearly one of the world's leading marathon runners. Certainly when you look outside of Kenya and Ethiopia, well, I suppose the first person you'd look at is the Chicago Marathon winner, Jacob Kiplimo. Had that great victory last week in Chicago, but Gete really now challenging as one of the top marathon runners, and following his compatriots winning in the World Championship Marathon, Alphonse Simbu, people will be looking beyond Kenya and Ethiopia now to some of the great athletes coming out of Tanzania and Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda's never had a winner in Amsterdam, male or female. Just the one Tanzanian winner previously. We mentioned John Burra, 1987. You have to go a long way back. This event has been dominated by Ethiopia and Kenya on both the men's and women's side. So coming to the final few meters of the River Amstel, they'll start to move away. Cheptegei in the orange there, still looking good in only his third ever marathon. Be interesting to see what he does today. A podium finish, according to his manager Jos Hermans, would be success. They'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I think, you know, some people have expressed surprise that Cheptegei hasn't run faster in his first two marathons, but we have to remember he's still only 28, and the great marathon runners who've gone before him, like Haile and Kenenisa and even Kipchoge, they all ran their best times when they were in their 30s. Think of Haile won his, when he broke the world record in Berlin, he was already 34 years old, and Kenenisa, when he ran that national record 2:01.41, he was 37 years old, and Kipchoge, when he won his Olympic title, his second Olympic title in Tokyo, he was 36 years old. So I think there's still time on the side of Joshua Cheptegei, and Cheptegei, I think, is just taking his time to feel his way into the marathon, and just aiming today to go a little bit faster than he did earlier this year in Tokyo, with an eye to target that Olympic marathon in Los Angeles. Also a very good runner in the heat, so if he can continue his progression, you'd have to say he's going to be one of the favourites when the Olympics comes around in 3 years' time.
Mickey Keitels has got a lead of over a minute on Anne Lotens as the leading Dutchwoman, so she continues to impress here, does Keitels, in only her second ever marathon. She's on for a very large personal best. The leading women went through halfway a little while ago, 69.11 at halfway, just outside the requested pace, so it's not bad. It's as though they've just salvaged a little bit, but they are well outside course record pace, over a minute down on the course record from last year.
And in that leading group of women, there were all Ethiopians, led by Zainaba Yima and Waganesh Makasha. So 7 Ethiopian athletes right at the front of the women's race, and we're back now at the front of the men's race. That leading group has got a little bit bigger over the last few minutes, and it still includes 3 race favourites. Sagai Getachew, the winner from last year, Gabriel Gete there through 25k in 1:13.32. Getani Muller, the Ethiopian, with a very fast debut time from Dubai 6 years ago. It says Stephen Kieser on the screen, but there is no Stephen Kieser in the race. The only Ugandan in that leading group is Joshua Cheptegei.
17 seconds, Richard, inside course record at 25 kilometres. So they have injected a little bit more pace, even since going through halfway. I agree with you. It didn't feel as though it slowed just a slight amount, but look at that. That is quite the injection of pace. And we've now got that group of
13 athletes.
13 athletes. So yeah, you're right. The 7 or 8 have been joined by 5 or 6 more. So we're back to a group of 13.
And I think significantly they've still got their pacemaker there through 25k, and it looks as though Chemetot, wearing number 3, the sole pacemaker, is going to try to get them through to 30k, which would be a real help for these leading athletes, because there's, I think, enough of them to 12 athletes behind the pacemaker. And if Chemetot can get them through to 30k, then they can then fight it out among themselves over the final quarter of the distance. This is the group targeting 2:07:30 with Phil Sessamon, number 18, on the right of the screen, and Khalid Chukut in the orange vest, targeting a best time.
1:15:32 through 25 kilometres. It's pretty metronomic, actually. Went through 20 kilometres in just outside the hour. So looking good, looking comfortable is the 39-year-old, 8 times a Dutch champion.
And just running alongside Chukut is the Eritrean athlete Aaron Kifle, well known for his track PBs. Over 5,000 and 10,000 metres, was run 13:05 for 5,000, 27:09 for 10,000 metres, running today his second marathon, having run his debut earlier this year in Milan when he ran 2:09:39. So Kifle also on course for a new best time, running alongside the leading Dutch athlete in the men's race, Khalid Chukut. And we're back on the left of your screen watching the leading men, and then we're seeing them from behind, and there's Joshua Cheptegei right at the back of the leading group of male athletes, just collecting his drink just past. I think this drink station has been set up at 26 kilometres, and you can see now the athletes have come away from the banks of the river. And there is Tom Dumoulin, and it looks as though Dumoulin is really starting to struggle. Went out very, very ambitiously with the leading women. Dumoulin, yeah, indicating that he's got problems with his calf. Yeah. So a little bit of an ambitious first attempt at the marathon for Dumoulin, still enjoying it. Well, it'll be interesting. If you're a keen cyclist, you'll have followed some of the world's top cyclists switching over to running. Christian Meyer is one of those who's achieved high success more at ultra running than at marathon running. But Dumoulin, who retired from the World Tour 3 years ago, having had an amazing career right at the front of the World Tour cycling, is struggling in his first marathon, but
there's nowhere to hide, is there?
There's nowhere to hide over the marathon. He ran a very good half marathon in Egmont earlier this year, and I think that had given him hope to run a first marathon under 2 hours and 20 minutes.
You have to respect the distance. I'm not suggesting he didn't, but I think we were both rather surprised and raised an eyebrow at each other when we saw him running along with the elite women so early in the race, and maybe he's starting to pay for it now. So men through 26 kilometres, and they're going to go south again and start to gradually work their way back towards the city of Amsterdam. We're hoping that we'll have the one remaining pacemaker still involved until 30k, and then it'll be interesting to see, because as many people watching will know, often it's at 30k that the racing starts. Get to 30k and then you've got a 12k race. It'll be interesting to see how many of these guys are still there in contention when we get to the 30k mark. Cheptegei still in there, all the big names Chow, the defending champion, going for a third victory in 4 years. Asmari's in there as well. All the big names safely still there.
I think the race organisers will also have their eye on the fastest ever marathon run in Holland, which is not here in Amsterdam. It's Bashir Abdi's course record in Rotterdam, 2:03.36, so just 3 seconds faster than Tola ran here in 2021. So that would be an extra bonus for the organisers if they could not only get a course record, but a fastest ever marathon time for a marathon in Holland. And Holland has such a rich history of marathon running, going back to when marathon running started in Enschede in 1947. Amsterdam being the second big city marathon that got going here in 1975, and then Rotterdam followed in 1981. So some really big races. The Eindhoven Marathon just took place in Holland last weekend, and that race was won in 2:06 on the men's side, 2:25 on the women's side. So many big city races here in Holland, Amsterdam and Rotterdam being the biggest, and they both, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, their course records are in the top 10 of all the big city marathons across the world on the men's side.
And not surprisingly, given that background, there are aspirations to one day perhaps become part of the World Marathon Majors family. That's now a group of 7 major city marathons. Sydney was the latest to join that group. The Johan Cruyff Arena is another landmark on this iconic course. And Amsterdam has got a good case, but of course the World Marathon Majors are looking to represent themselves across the whole world. Shanghai is very much in there in the conversation. South America at the moment doesn't have a World Marathon Major, so that's another opportunity as the women approach at 25 kilometers. Remember, a group of 7, all of them Ethiopian, went through the halfway mark, and I think the same 7, Richard, are all still there at 25k.
Yeah, Zeynep Yilmaz, Waganesh Makasha, Bozana Mulati, Aynalan Desta, Gadisa Mulu, Brejkan Waldi and Mekdes Shmelis. The 7 Ethiopians at the front, still with their pacemakers, and I would expect quite a few of those pacemakers could go the full distance. These are the male pacemakers who are leading these women, and at the front of this group, Zeynep Yilmaz, she's the one who seems to be pushing. She actually asked for a faster pace from the race organisers. Her best time 2:19.07, but they're on course for something around a 2:18 finish. Zeynep Yilmaz now coached by Haji Ajilo, and there is Aynalan Desta and Mekdes Shmelis, and there's Waganesh Makasha. Those are the 7 Ethiopians right at the front of this race. Bozana Mulati, I want to mention, she finished 8th in the 10,000 metres at the World Championships in Oregon, so has got less experience at the marathon, but has made a very good start to her marathon career, having finished 3rd in Berlin last year in a time of 2:19.00. Well, this is Mesvin Nagusi, one of the lesser-known marathon runners. He's starting to drop off from that leading group. Still Chematot, the Kenyan pacemaker, right at the front, being pursued by Gatani Mola. And in that leading group, you can just see in the orange shorts at the back, Cheptegei is still there, and
Getachau is there as well.
Getachau is there, and the tall figure just in front of Cheptegei, Gabriel Ge'e. So I think they're the leading athletes just very happy to let the pacemaker take them through up until 30 kilometers, and it's at that point that we would expect the pacemaker to drop out, and I think there's now 10 athletes following the pacemaker. That's a nice group for them to really fight it out over the final 12 kilometers. once they get to 30 kilometres.
Yep, they'll negotiate a tunnel, the fietstunnel, just before they get to the 30-kilometre mark. They're strung out, aren't they? Cheptegei just coming a little wider, but there's a good rhythm about this. There is Moller. And Gay, who was, we sensed some impatience from his body language as they went through halfway, has just been content to just drop back a little bit. He's towards the back of that pack in the lilac vest there.
Another athlete in this leading group, Bazazao Asmari. They're just behind Gitani Mulla, Ethiopian athlete, ran here in Amsterdam 3 years ago. That's where his PB was set, 2:04.57. So Asmari knows the course. Mulla running here in Amsterdam for the first time. The athlete with the most experience of Amsterdam in this leading group is the two-time winner, Sagai Getachew. And there is the Kenyan athlete Lamek 2, who went off rather ambitiously. He's got a best time of 2:06.29. He's starting to drop off from that leading group. So
big moment coming up in just under a kilometre time. There's the view from him. It's tough, isn't it, when you become detached from the group. It can be a very, very lonely place.
Yeah, and I think this part of the course is one with far fewer spectators. It's the southeast district, Belmars, where highly residential, and they're still 5 or 6 kilometres from the city centre. They take a left turn at about 30 kilometres, and then they wind their way back into the city centre, where the crowds will be at their deepest. They come over the Amstel at 35 kilometres and then head back to the Rijksmuseum. You can see, in a way, how quiet this section of the course is. But the runners really be focused on just keeping a good rhythm, and probably anticipating that Chemetot, here number 3, will step aside quite shortly.
He's doing a good job. He's been the sole pacemaker now for almost 10 kilometres. Just keeping a close eye on Cheptegei there. He's looking good. This is the point where we start to try and read how athletes are feeling. Are they up on their toes? Is the shoulder relaxed? The facial muscles, how are they looking? And Cheptegei, in the close-up shots we've seen of him so far, looks pretty comfortable. There is two, again, just trying desperately to hang on to the coattails here of this leading group.
Yeah, Cheptegei was speaking earlier this week at the press conference about how he'd prepared for this race, really with a lot more confidence. He trains alongside some other really good marathon runners. Victor Kiplangat, who won the World Championship Marathon in Budapest 2 years ago, finished 15th in the World Championships in Tokyo just 5 weeks ago. So he's got some very good training partners with a little bit more experience. He's also learned a fair bit from the marathon, having raced twice already. Had a very tough first outing in Valencia 2 years ago, and earlier this year in Tokyo, it was at this point in the race that he really started to suffer. So it's going to be really interesting to see if his training and his preparation, which is now geared much more towards the marathon, has picked up his weekly volume up to closer to 175, 180 kilometres, will really serve him well over this final quarter of the distance. So they're through 30 kilometres, and we'll try and give you a comparison compared to when Tola set the world record, sorry, the course record here 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was 1:28.33. They're inside that. It's just a question of by how much. There were 17 seconds inside course record paced at 25k, and they've gone through there in 1:28.25. So that's now gone to 8 seconds. So they have just slipped back a little bit on course record, but they are still inside. And this, as you said earlier on, Richard, was where Tola really started to rip it up, didn't he, in 2021 when he set the course record, this particular section.
Yeah, from 30 to 35k, he ran incredibly fast. I think that really from 30 to 40k ran 28:52, so he was doing 5k splits of around 14:25, 14:27, which really saw him come home in that incredibly fast time, 2:03:39 course record. So they're still under course record pace, 8 seconds under course record pace, but it's really what's going to happen now over this final 12 kilometers of the distance. They're still together, and the pacemaker, as we see, did drop out at 30 kilometers, and it is Gay, the fastest athlete in the field, wearing number 2, who collected his drinks bottle, and it looks as though it is the Tanzanian athlete who is wanting to push on, and last year's winner, Sagai Getachew, has spotted the danger and has gone in pursuit of Gay.
Well, how often do we see this? The drink station at 30k signals the time to start racing. And Gay, who's been impatient, been chomping at the bit there, has just started to lengthen his stride, as we see the chasing group, Phil Sesseman and Khalid Shukud in that group, just coming through 30k as well. Not too far behind, so running well. Tola is another debutant. He's in there, Daniel Tola. Sesseman looking pretty good. Has he still got a dog called Hailey? I think he has.
I think he has, isn't it? Is it?
And Kipchoge is his other, yeah, his 2 dogs.
Exactly, yeah. He loves his dogs as much as he loves his running. But these 2 athletes on course for a PB if they can keep that pace going. And Chris, as you said, it looks as though that group, I think they're the 3rd group on the course, are not that far behind this leading group. We can see that leading group of 6 athletes with Cheptegei. I think he's running a very sensible race. He's a few meters off that leading group of 6, but he's still within contact, and we can see some of the other athletes, including Ando Alam Shifarao, dropping back.
Yeah, that group of 11 actually went through 30 kilometers more or less with identical times, but that situation now has changed completely. And again, it's Gabriel Gay, the Tanzanian record holder, who has done the damage there. There is Tunyo.
Yeah, they're Kenyan athletes who we saw earlier in that leading group. You can just see from the way he's running that he really is finding it tough. I think that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. You can see right at the back of that group, Cheptegei running very, very sensibly, staying in contact, and it looks as though he's just closing down. So fascinating battle now as they approach the final 10 kilometers. Gay from Tanzania, clearly the athlete who is setting the pace, wanting to keep this fast pace going. Getane Mola, the Ethiopian, in pursuit. Sagai Getachew there in 3rd place, wanting to stay in contact, and Cheptegei moving through very, very gradually, wanting to stay in contact.
Well, very much more so than just staying in contact. He's just gliding through, and this looks to be some really smart, conservative running here by Cheptegei. Still the world record holder, remember, over 5,000 and 10,000 meters. I just wonder if it comes into the final few kilometers, maybe the final few hundred meters, Richard, whether his track speed will count for something.
Well, if it came down to a sprint in the stadium, I'd certainly put my money on Cheptegei, but a lot can happen over the last 10 kilometers of the race. One of the lesser-known athletes there is the Kenyan number 8, Jeffrey Kipchumba. Not that experienced at the marathon. Got a best time of 2:05:46. Now that's Bazazao Asmara, who has started to lose contact with that leading group. We mentioned earlier, ran his best time of 2:04:46 here. This is the leading Dutch athlete, and she's almost a minute clear of the 2nd placed Dutch athlete.
But it was more than a minute, and so it is starting to come down a little bit, that gap between Kietels and Loutens in 2nd place within the Dutch leading women through 32 kilometers. That group was 5. It's now, I think, 6. So I think the athlete at the back of that leading group, has just managed to regain contact, and that's exactly what Asmari is also trying to do.
Yeah, Bazazao Asmari has come back, and I think the reason for that is that we can see right at the front, Gabriel Guete has just taken his foot off the pedal, and whereas a few minutes ago he was really stringing them out, he just moved a little bit to the side to see what his opponents have got left, and Guete, whether he's actually going through a hard patch or whether he's just wanting to conserve a little bit of energy, but it's now the Ethiopian athlete Getani Mulla who is at the front, and Cheptegei much nearer to the front and has just gone ahead of the Tanzanian athletes. But Segai Getachew still very nicely positioned in that leading group of 7 athletes.
Do you think Gay was trying to surge? Is this one of maybe a number of surges that he's just testing the rest, or did he go out a little bit too hard in that latest break, do you think?
It's very hard to tell. He's still looking comfortable, I have to say. But clearly he has just backed off a little bit, whether he's struggling or we'll soon find out. But it is now the lesser-known athlete, the Kenyan Jeffrey Kipchumba, who is at the front of the race. Getani Mulla also, we've seen him for most of the distance near the front, or actually at the front. Getani Mulla got a best time of 2:03.34 from Dubai 6 years ago. So 3 Ethiopians there: Getani Mulla, Bazazao Asmara, Segai Getachew, the Ugandan athlete, Joshua Cheptegei, right at the back of that group, Gabriel Guete, the Tanzanian, the Kenyan athlete, Jeffrey Kipchumba. And the athlete that we haven't mentioned there is also, another Ethiopian, Bute Gemechu. Best time of 2:04.51, so running faster than he's ever run before. Certainly the pace at which they're going is still on target for the course record. Now, here's the leading Dutch athletes going through 25k. That's we're seeing now Anna Leutjen going through in 1:28.19, so 55 seconds down on the leading Dutch athlete, Mickey Keitels.
We'll keep an eye on that gap, because it feels like it is just coming down a little bit, and the question is, has Anne Leutjen got enough road ahead of her to try and close that gap? We're getting some really good pictures, by the way, here, just trying to spin round, and that's the gap. She can see Kittles, can't she, ahead of her? Not a difficult thing with that peroxide blonde hair. So that's the target, and Leutjen will know that. She can see her physically with the naked eye.
Yeah, and it's an ambitious goal that she set herself to come back here to run her 3rd marathon of 2025. But there is a national marathon title at stake, and the prize money that goes with that. So Anna Leutjen, be very interesting to see whether she can close that gap on the 1st place Dutch athlete, Mickey Keitels. Meanwhile, at the front, it's the Kenyan athlete now, Kipchumba, who is making the pace. Segai Getachew and Getani Mulla, the 2 Ethiopians, tucked in 2nd and 3rd, and Bazazao Asmara again starting to struggle. We saw just a few minutes earlier he was losing contact. Then, as the pace slowed, Asmara made his way back into that leading group. But now, as they head into the final 10 kilometers, that leading group down to 6 athletes, and look how comfortable Cheptegei looks. We've seen him look like that on the track. It is that loping stride, and it's going to be really interesting to see whether Cheptegei can stay as controlled and calm as he looks at the moment.
He does look good, doesn't he? He looks really smooth. He's taken this preparation so seriously, as we were hearing from his manager yesterday. And as Jos Herman said, when this guy puts his mind to something, he commits. you know, 100%. There's no messing about, and he is committed massively to this Amsterdam Marathon.
I think that's right. I mean, he's the type of athlete that loves setting himself goals. I mean, I remember a year out from the Paris Olympics speaking with his manager at the time, Yuri van Velden, and he said that Joshua was really focused on winning in Paris the 10,000 metres, and he won gold there, and that was marked the end of his track career. And he's come here now to really start to consolidate his marathon career. But it's Gae who's gone back to the front and again put his foot down as he had done about 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah, feels like another surge, doesn't it?
It's very, very definite surge from Gae. Cheptegei has again taken a cautious approach and just dropped back a few metres, but it looks like it's 4 athletes now at the front. Gabriel Gae being pursued by last year's winner, Sagai Getachew, Getani Muller, and I think it's the other Ethiopian, Bute Gemechu, and Cheptegei playing it cautiously.
Yeah, and I think he's right to, not panicking. He can't let that gap get too big, but nor should he overexert himself. It could be just another surge. We've seen it once already from Gae. Gemechu looks the most vulnerable at the moment. So the group of 6 has become, for the moment, a group of 4, with Cheptegei in 5th place and chasing.
So we're at 34 kilometres. This is the stretch where they'll come back over the Amstel, past the Royal Theatre Carré, and then head back down to the Rijksmuseum, and the crowds will get really thick as they approach Vondelpark and back here at the stadium. Great anticipation. See who can win. This is the 50th anniversary edition, and it is the Tanzanian Gabriel Gae trying to win his 2nd marathon of 2025, having won in Daegu in February. And to follow on from that great victory by his compatriot Alphonse Simbu in Tokyo in the World Championships 5 weeks ago. So it's those 4 athletes. Tanzanian Gabriel Gae being pursued by Getani Muller of Ethiopia, Bute Gemechu of Ethiopia, and Sagai Getachew of Ethiopia. So 3 Ethiopians in pursuit of the fastest athlete in the field, Gabriel Gae, 28 years old, just 2 days older than Joshua Cheptegei, who's in 5th place.
Yeah, and that gap looks to be getting bigger and bigger. This is the 2nd surge from Gae, and this looks to be a decisive one as they go under the railway track, those trains trundling into Amsterdam Central Station. If you're Cheptegei, you're just hoping that 1 or 2 of these 4 will start to come back at you. He's just got to try and stay in contention there. And this is now Kipchumba who has hit the front.
Yeah, I have to correct myself because I said 3 Ethiopians. It's 2 Ethiopians, Getani Muller and Sagai Getachew, at the back of that group of 4. At the front now, Jeffrey Kipchumba is the Kenyan who we've also seen trying to push the pace a bit earlier in the race, but now they're through 35 kilometres, and it is the Kenyan Kipchumba who is making the pace with Gae, the Tanzanian, in pursuit. Just over 7 kilometres of the race to go. Sagai Getachew trying to stay in contact with those 2 leading athletes, the Kenyan and the Tanzanian.
Worth reflecting that we haven't had a Kenyan winner in the men's race here in Amsterdam for a couple of years. Joshua Bellet in 2023. There's the split time through at 35 kilometres. So,
well, interesting, Chris. Their time through 35 kilometres is exactly the same time that Tamrat Tola went through 35 kilometres 4 years ago. So, if these leading 4 can keep the pace going, they're going to get very, very close. Okay, so our split has given 1:42.58, so they're inside. Sorry, 1:42.49, 9 seconds inside.
Yeah, it's about the same as it was at 30 kilometres. It's almost a second just outside. And now it's Getachew, the defending champion, who is just starting to drop off. And Gay and Kipchumba between them are starting to do some real damage.
Well, look at this.
Goodness me.
Kittles is really struggling, and I think she's soon going to be overtaken by Leutjens. We're now watching the race for the first Dutch athlete in the women's race. This is Mickey Kittels, who's been the long-time leader in the Dutch women's race. Remember, the Dutch national marathon title up for grabs here today, and Kittels is being reeled in by a very large group of athletes, which includes Anna Leutjens, the fastest Dutch athlete in the women's field. Remember, her best time, 2:26.38, set here in Amsterdam. Sorry, 2:26.36 run here in Amsterdam 2 years ago.
A much more measured performance from Leutjens, and I'm surprised by how quickly she's reeled her in. Now then, a story unfolding here in the men's race. Sergei Getachau, winner twice here in Amsterdam, including last year, is the latest to start feeling the heat here. And Leutjens there, left of picture in the lilac, just disappearing, is now almost on the shoulder of Kittels. And I wonder, Richard, whether Kittels is aware of that.
Well, if she's not already, she soon will be, because it looks as though Leutjens is the athlete who's moving through, and Kittels is the athlete who's really struggling to hold on to her pace. But meanwhile, at the front, with just over 6 kilometers to run, it is the Kenyan still who is making the pace, but Gabriel Gete, the Tanzanian, in second place, still looking as though he's got plenty of running, and he's being pursued by Gitani Mule. So these are the three athletes. Kipchumba of Kenya opening up 10, maybe 15 meters on the Tanzanian and Ethiopian athletes. So we've got a Kenyan at the front and a Tanzanian and Ethiopian in second and third as they head back down towards the Rijksmuseum. Remember, they'll pass the Rijksmuseum at 38 kilometers, then they go into Vondel Park just before 39 kilometers, and then they have 3 kilometers, half of which is through Vondel Park, and then they'll come back out onto the streets before looping around back and finishing in the stadium.
Well, this is bold, isn't it, from Geoffrey Kipchumba. We had a Kipchumba winner here back in 2019. Vincent Kipchumba won in 2:05.09. This is bold because, as we've been saying, the event in recent years has been dominated by Ethiopians, and he's opened up quite the gap there. And the question for me, Richard, is can Tola and Geye, can they work together in second and third to inch their way back?
And there's the fourth place athlete, Sergei Getachau, and Cheptegei is now trying to close that gap, and it looks as though he is closing. So those are the fourth and fifth place athletes. Sergei Getachau of Ethiopia in fourth, and right at the top of our screen in the orange shorts of Uganda, Joshua Cheptegei closing in on Getachau of Ethiopia. But at the front of the race, number 8 is Geoffrey Kipchumba from Kenya. He's opened up about a 20-25 meter lead over the second and third place athletes, Gete and Mola of Ethiopia.
Well, Cheptegei still has enough time, doesn't he? He still has enough road ahead of him to try and pick off as many of these athletes as he can. And Muller has now just started to move away from Gay. So Kenya, followed by Ethiopia, followed by Tanzania.
This is where they go over the Amstel River. Great views of the Theatre, the Royal Theatre Carré, as the athletes do that small up and down over the bridge. And I have to say, Kipchumba still looks really, really good, bouncing off the tarmac. Mola in second, opening up a small gap over Gabriel Gete, who I think for the first time in this race looks as though he's having to work really hard to stay with the Ethiopian in second place, Gitani Muller, but it's Kipchumba who's slightly extending his lead. just over 5 kilometres, almost exactly 5 kilometres to run.
Yeah, looking very good indeed. The cadence is good. He'll have Vondel Park approaching pretty quickly. And if he can maintain, has he got enough here? Gay in third, has got a target in Molla, the Ethiopian. Cheptegei, the world record holder over 5 and 10,000 meters, not out of it yet. The podium finish at the moment looking just beyond him, but a lot can happen in the final 5 kilometers of the race.
Well, on occasion we've said that Amsterdam has been the springboard for these new athletes to make their name and then go on to greater things, and I just wonder whether this could be true of Kipchumba. Really came into the race as one of the lesser-known athletes, or certainly less favoured, alongside the likes of Gete and Cheptegei and last year's winner, Sergei Getachew. Gitani Muller also with a great record, stretching back to when he ran that very fast debut in Dubai 6 years ago. But it is Kipchumba who is extending his lead.
And still looking good, isn't he? Still looking full of promise. The arms are working hard. Can't see any signs of stress at the moment. Has he broken the resolve of the chasing back behind him? Gay and Muller and Getachew, and a little bit further back, Cheptegei. These are some big names. There is Shukud, the leading Dutch man, running on his own. He too looking for a new personal best. 2:07.37, his lifetime best, set here a few years ago.
Well, he's by far, I think, far and away the leading Dutch athlete in the men's race. I think the second-placed Dutch athlete, Stan Niesten, he's got a best time of 2:10, so we're not expecting him to get near to Shukud. What we're keen to see is whether Shukud can set another personal best here in Amsterdam, as he's done a few times already in this race. Running here in Amsterdam for his 7th time. First raced here in 2015. And over the last 10 years, has slowly reduced his best time. But look at this. Kipchumba has got an even bigger lead as he approaches the Rijksmuseum. 4 kilometers to go. Just 25 years of age, a best time of 2:05.46. Not that much experience over the marathon, has run over 10 kilometers, fast time 27:36, but these are the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place athletes.
Well, this is the race for the podium, isn't it, right there? And Getachew, you just wonder, as the defending champion, once again starting to find something in the latter stages.
Yeah, it looks as though Gabriel Gete is the one who's really struggling now, being overtaken by Sergei Getachew, last year's winner. And as Getachew moves into 3rd, you sense that Getachew, not only with an eye on the podium, but an eye on trying to overhaul his compatriot Gitani Muller. These are the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place athletes, and I think more than 100 meters up the road. We'll soon get a sense of how big that gap is as Geoffrey Kipchumba strides away, clear in the lead.
Meanwhile, in the women's race, approaching 35 kilometers, we've had this group of 7 Ethiopians locked together for almost the entire race, and there they are still. They went through 30 kilometers in just outside 1:38. In fact, that was a group of 6 at the last split, but Malati is there, Welde.
It looks as though there's 4 athletes there now at the front of the women's race. Borzana Mulati, F3. F8 is Bujkan Walde, athlete coached by Tessema Abshiru. Also, I think it was Waganesh Makasha was also in that group. But here's Kipchumba already now into Vondel Park with a sizable lead, so just over 3 kilometers. These are the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place athletes. And we can see if we look further up the course, there's no sign of Kipchumba. So Kipchumba looks as though he's got a comfortable gap. having to work really hard to stay in contact with the two Ethiopians in second and third.
Well, he deserves this, does Kipchumba, if he can see this through. He has been working so hard. Once he got ahead, he didn't relent. He just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's all credit in the bank, isn't it? That he can now start to enjoy. And the battle, for me, is now between Getachew and his compatriot Mola for second place. Gay looks to be not spent, but it looks to be drifting away that podium finish, and we wait to see how far back Cheptegei is in fifth place.
So 3 kilometres of the marathon to run for our leader. Geoffrey Kipchumba will be looking for his split at 40k. Tola went through 40k in 1:57.25, and we're sensing that Kipchumba is still close to that course record set by Tola 4 years ago. These are the second and third place athletes, the two Ethiopians, Getane Mola and Segai Getachew. But Kipchumba still working very hard, and looks as though he's extending his lead.
Well, this is a delightful part of the course. They went through here, of course, right at the start of the marathon. The women went through 35 kilometres in 1:54.28. A group of 4 now. That group of 7 Ethiopians is now a group of 4, with Desta Walde Shimeles, who is the debutant, and Mulati.
And it's Mulati, as we can see on the screen, who is actually struggling to stay with those leading 3 women, Ainalem Desta, Berchkom Walde and Mekdes Shimeles. So at the front of the women's race, it's 4 Ethiopians. At the front of the men's race is the lone Kenyan, Geoffrey Kipchumba, running by far his fastest ever marathon. Came into the race with a best time of 2:05.36, and today on target to run almost 2 minutes faster than that as Kipchumba approaches the 40-kilometre point. These are the second and third place athletes, Segai Getachew and Getane Mola, really fighting it out between them. But I think their hopes of winning here, and Getachew's hopes of winning a 3rd title in Amsterdam, seem to be disappearing.
Yeah, he's constantly looking round, is Getachew. He just wants to know whether the podium finish is secure. Not quite yet. Approaching the 40-kilometre mark is Kipchumba. There he is through 40 kilometres, and very shortly he'll exit Fondle Park and take a left-hand turn, and then he's very much into the final mile or so of this Amsterdam Marathon course. It really has been a bold performance here from Kipchumba, one of the lesser-known names. All the talk of Getachew and Gay and Cheptegei. Well, at the moment, he's blazed a trail, and they're all behind him. Look, can't even see them physically. There he's through 1:57.06, and he really has poured it on there, hasn't he? 19 seconds inside course record. He's on for a massive personal best, and as things stand, a new course record.
This is absolutely fascinating stuff from Kipchumba. 19 seconds inside Tola's course record from 4 years ago. Remember, when Tola won here in 2021, he then went on to win not only the World Championship title in Oregon in 2022, but then become the Olympic champion last year in Paris. So when Tola won here, it really set him up for his 2 big championship wins in the following 3 years. Well, Kipchumba is not only on target for a first big city win, but also could get very, very close to Tola's course record.
37 seconds his lead at 40 kilometres. That's how devastating that kick was. And surely now, with less than 2 kilometres to go, he's got this race won. The wheels would seriously have to come off here, wouldn't they, for Kipchumba to deny him this victory. And still, he's working hard, really hard, even at this stage of the race.
Here's the second and third place athletes. At least they've got each other for company to push each other and try and stay ahead of Gabriel Gete, the Tanzanian. And there's a quick glance back from Getachew just to check that they had that gap. And it's Kipchumba who comes out of Vondel Park. And this is a little bit a difficult part of this course because he has to navigate his way between the tram tracks.
Yes, and Getachew a few years ago, didn't he, when he won in 22, said he found it quite awkward. He got his, I think, heel stuck in one of the tram tracks at one point, and it was quite painful. And there you can see Kipchumba just tiptoeing his way across the tram tracks.
See the pain on his face as he really pushes himself. Just under a mile to go at 1,300 meters of running. What a great run this has been. Still pushing himself. He'll have a right turn and then a left turn, and then he'll start to see the Olympic Stadium and the women's race really starting to split up. There's Mekdes Shmeles, the Ethiopian, starting to lose contact. I think it's the two Ethiopian athletes, Berchkan Wolde and Waganesh Makashai. Sorry, I think that's Aynalam Desta and Berchkan Wolde right at the front.
So Kipchumba, just 1 kilometre to go, and this would be the biggest win of his career, no doubt about it. It's going to be a huge personal best, and at the moment he's on for a new course record. This was not in the conversation in the lead up to this race, not at all. With all due respect to Geoffrey Kipchumba, he wasn't being talked about, he wasn't at the press conference, and look at him continuing to work hard. It's hurting. There's a reason for that. It's not meant to be easy, and he has thoroughly deserved this victory today, assuming that he can get the job done, and the battle behind for second and third between the two Ethiopians continues. Well, we came through under this arch this morning on the bus in before the sun rose in pitch black, and here he is, 750 meters to go, less than 2 laps of the track.
So the course will swing round to the left. I just hope that he doesn't follow the lead vehicle, which is going to peel off to the right. So Kipchumba with about 600 meters to run. He's got a left turn and then a right turn, which will bring him into the stadium with just over 200 meters to run. And he's being instructed by that lead motorbike correctly to go round to the left.
That was the point at which last year Getachew, who's currently in third, went straight on. He's negotiated that left-hand turn beautifully, taking the inside line, and he's almost there. Let's keep an eye on the clock. Remember, the course record, 2:03.39, set by Tamarit Tolu, the Olympic champion in 2021. And now he can enjoy himself, but still he pushes on, still he pushes, and there through the arch, and any minute now we will see him with the naked eye. We're waiting for him, along with several thousand other people inside the Olympic Stadium here in Amsterdam. What a moment this is for Geoffrey Kipchumba from Kenya. There's the battle behind for second and third between the two Ethiopians, but now the victory lap, half a lap of the track, 200 meters. Amsterdam awaits Geoffrey Kipchumba. What a surprise this is. He's going to break the course record. Remember, his personal best, 2:05.46, coming into the race today, and still he pushes on. The crowd roaring him on inside the stadium. We still don't know who will be second or third, and there he is coming through. Let's keep an eye on the clock, 2:03.39 into the last 30 meters. He's going to smash the course record. Geoffrey Kipchumba from Kenya has produced an enormous upset here. Geoffrey Kipchumba is the champion in the 50th anniversary of the Amsterdam Marathon. He has smashed his personal best and has produced a brilliant performance, a new course record. That is bold. That is really bold running by the Kenyan, and he is the marathon champion here in Amsterdam in 2025.
Sensational running by Kipchumba, taking the title here. New course record being congratulated by Haile Gebrselassie, the winner here 20 years ago, and the second and third place athletes now into the home straight. Sergei Getachew just holding off Gitani Molla. Last year's winner, Sergei Getachew, waving to the crowd. Second for Getachew this year, third for Gitani Molla, also being congratulated by Haile on the finish line.
Well, what a race that was. Terrific. The number of times the lead changed in the last 10 kilometres was extraordinary. There is Gay coming home for fourth place, the Tanzanian. And we still wait for Joshua Cheptegei. He's just crossing the line now, just out of picture in fifth place. So Cheptegei. So East Africa represented there across the top five. 2:03.31 was the course record winning time. A warm embrace between Gabriel Gay and Cheptegei. And Cheptegei 2:04.51. I think that will go down pretty well. That's another big chunk for Joshua Cheptegei. So the top six safely home. What a race that was. Kenya upsetting the form book here. Sergei Getachew, the winner here last year and in 2022, having to settle for second place. So Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2 and 3, and Tanzania in fourth place with Joshua Cheptegei. There he is, just recovering. And a smart race. That's another chunk off his personal best. He's taken over a minute off his personal best. Now, Khalid Choukoud, the Dutch champion, age 39, and he too is going to be heading towards perhaps a personal best. He's got about a minute and 10 seconds to get across the finish line. He's got one or two more twists and turns to come. He is comfortably going to be the first Dutch athlete home. His consistency is quite extraordinary. He'll be 40 in a few months' time. One more right-hand turn to come. And is he going to do it? I think he's going to be just outside his personal best in his 7th appearance in Amsterdam. There he is, just over 200 meters to go, and he's got 30 seconds to get across the finish line. He's just coming into view now opposite our commentary position. It's going to be just beyond him, I think, but it'll be one of his top 3 best times ever in the marathon. He's beaten some big names today, and the Dutch fans here in the Olympic Stadium greet the Dutch #1. What another fine performance from Khalid Choukoud. 8 times the Dutch champion. He's going to come into view round the final bend any second now. There's the motorbike, and there is Khalid Choukoud just outside his personal best. 50 meters to go, roared on by the crowd. What a moment this is. The Dutch master has done it again, and he will be the Dutch champion for the 8th time. A brilliant performance, almost bang on 2:08. He has to be happy with that. Age 39, Khalid Choukoud is the first Dutchman home, and that is an outstanding performance from Khalid Choukoud. Much improved on his performance from 2023.
En dan kijken we de mannen achter elkaar binnen.
Congratulations to Khalid Choukoud. A warm embrace with the director of Le Champion and all the VIP dignitaries who will be part of the presentation party. So our attention now switches to the leading women, and it's been Ethiopia all the way. And here we have Berkutan Welde and Anyelam Desta, who are locked together here. Welde closest to the camera there. He's had a fine race here. Just 21 years old. She won the Prague Marathon earlier this year in her personal best of 2:20. There she is in the red. Bertukan Welde, an excellent cross-country CV as well. She is the quicker on paper over her compatriot Anyelam Desta. She's a 2:22 runner, and there they are, stride for stride. The course record has long gone. That was never really on the cards, right from the first 5K split that we saw. So Yalamzer for Halu's course record from 2024 is perfectly safe. They're into the last 8 minutes or so of running here, and they have opened up a gap, an appreciable gap, over the likes of Shimelez and Mulati and Yima, their compatriots. Approaching 40 kilometers through Fondle Park for the second time, and really starting to press on the gas here. Anyelam Desta just furthest away from the camera there, the slightly taller of the two athletes. Berkutan Welde, one of the athletes put up at the press conference and said that she plans to win. Very emphatic, very bold assertion. Training has gone better than ever, she said on Thursday. The pacemakers have done a terrific job. They've still got a little bit of shelter there. They can slipstream. So Welde against Desta, who is going to come out on top here into the final 2 kilometers of this race. We'll be hearing from the winners a little bit later on in our coverage on this bright Sunday morning here. And, well, they talk about taking the gloves off and taking the fight. That was the moment when the compression sleeve came off, and Geoffrey Kipchumba thought, right, this is it. This is my moment. And when he made his break, it was absolutely decisive. It was a sensational last 10 kilometers from the Kenyan. Geoffrey Kipchumba, the first Kenyan to win for a couple of years. It's been very much dominated by Ethiopia in the last few years here in Amsterdam. But today, it was Kenya's day. And there was that winning moment. Geoffrey Kipchumba. A new course record, a terrific performance, and a massive personal best. 2:03.31, beating Tamarit Tola's mark of 4 years ago. Out of Fondle Park, Welde, Nano. Oh my goodness, they're all over the place. They didn't know which way to go. There was a choice. The course splits, and one athlete went one way, and the other went the other, but actually it's not been particularly decisive. Now it's all about negotiating these rather awkward tram tracks. Here it is again. A little bit of indecision. Even the pacemakers didn't really know. And it was actually Desta who went the slightly longer way round. And then they met up again. Now they're back together. And they're into the final kilometre and a half. There is Desta. Now then, she's made a push for home. And Welde now is chasing. Anyelam Desta, who is only the 9th fastest athlete in this field. There is Welde, and now there's a little gap opened up of about 5 or 6 meters. And Welde has got to respond here. He has just over a kilometre. We know it's going to be an Ethiopian podium, 1, 2, 3. We've known that for some time. Can Welde find something? She said she plans to win. Well, at the moment, she's in second place, comfortably so. No doubt about it. She's got almost a minute over the athlete in third place, Milhares. But at the moment, it is Desta, whose personal best is 2:22.11. Remember the course record set here last year was 2:16.52. That's not going to be trouble today, and that gap looks to be getting a little bigger to me. 1 kilometre to go into the final 1,000 metres of this race, and this looks to have been decisive. Desta, born in 2004, just 21 years old. Both these athletes in 1 and 2 the same age, and that gap getting bigger and bigger stride by stride. And it looks to me as if Desta has now got this Amsterdam Marathon won. Weldy will keep pushing, she'll keep trying, but it looks as though she will have to settle for second place today. The flags fluttering on top of the Olympic Stadium, where we wait for the winners of this women's race. 750 metres to go for Desta, heading for the biggest win of her career. That's the view from the athlete in second place, Weldy. Just a couple of more turns. There'll be a right, then a left, and then another right. But Desta can now surely start to enjoy this moment. What a run it's been. There were 7 athletes, all from Ethiopia, all working hard together. And now she's regained the spring in her step. There is the right turn, then the left turn. Make sure you turn left. Don't go straight on like Getachew did last year. Here's the left, and then there'll be a final right-hand turn into the stadium. And we're looking at the arch from the streets as they come into the stadium. Just moving away to the right in anticipation of that right turn. Great crowds on the streets of Amsterdam yet again in its 50th anniversary. A real special buzz about the city in 2025, the 750th anniversary of the city of Amsterdam. They've come out in great number today, and here is Desta about to enter the stadium. People are on their feet all around us, left and right and opposite, all wrapped up in their autumn clothes. And here she comes, Desta, into the stadium. 200 meters to go. She is going to smash her personal best. She's not that far outside the course record, in truth. It's been a terrific run here. Really has. Desta still with male company, pushing hard into the final bend. Less than 50 meters to go. She should come inside 2 hours, 18 minutes. She will knock off a good 3 minutes from her personal best. And Desta is the winner of the Amsterdam Marathon, the women's marathon in 2025, just outside 2:17:30. What a win for Desta in Amsterdam in its anniversary year. Congratulations to Desta. Yeah, and I think he was looking down on her today. That was a terrific performance. And the second place goes to Weldy, Ethiopian. In the end, it was a straight shootout between the two of them, and it was Desta who came through to take the win. So we await the arrival of our third woman. Last we heard it was Milhares.
Hier over de finish, Pim Bijl van PAC.
There is Anne Lowton, who's run a really measured race today. At one stage, she was well over a minute down on the leading Dutch woman, Nikki Kietels, but just trusted her judgment, and her pacing was terrific. And Anne Lowton in Fondle Park, the leading Dutch woman, the Dutch champion before today. The Dutch Championships also at stake here today, remember. And just a few weeks after that terrific performance in the heat of Tokyo at the World Championships, this is impressive stuff from Anne Lowton. And Milhares. Milhares is the third place finisher in the women's race here in Amsterdam in 2025, just inside 2:20 for Milhares on her debut. Terrific debut from the Ethiopian. So an Ethiopian podium yet again here in Amsterdam. The top three home, and our next arrival will be, from a domestic point of view, the Dutch champions, and that's how hard it is, even for the very best in elite marathon running. So Anne Lowton, her personal best, 2:26.36. Set here in 2023. She has just over 2 kilometers to go. She will exit Fondle Park very shortly. It's a terrific place to be. There's so much activity in Fondle Park. The autumn colours are, as always at this time of the year, quite delightful. The leaves just starting to turn. It's really sheltered. And decent support as well. There'll be a left-hand turn as she exits the park. Looking a little tired, but maintaining her rhythm quite nicely there. Mickey Kietels, who went off very quickly indeed, and has dropped back. In fact, we're just wondering whether she's actually stepped off the track, but it's now Jill Holterman on her debut here in Amsterdam, who is the second Dutch woman in the national championships. So 1,800 meters to go for Anne Lowton, who's run Rotterdam 3 times, but has always produced her best in Amsterdam. And this was the winning moment for Anielem Desta here today. As they came out of Fondle Park, there was some confusion as to which way they should go, left or right of the barrier. Anielem Desta took the right-hand fork, and in the end was able to hold off the challenge of Bertakan Walde. And Lowton then out of Fondle Park. Here the crowds start to thicken quickly. Really good atmosphere on the streets today. She's instantly recognizable. Surely she can raise a smile at some stage as she maybe enters the stadium. She's having to work really hard. This has been tough, no doubt about it. Jill Holterman is the chasing athlete behind her. And Mickey Kietel just maybe getting her pacing judgment slightly off key today. Keeping clear of those tram tracks. No trams running in this part of the course today, of course. Today, the city of Amsterdam, in its 750th year, has been taken over by the marathon, celebrating its 50th anniversary. Dual celebrations in Amsterdam today. Congratulations to the pacemaker, has done a great job. He's been by Anne Loughton's side for pretty much the whole race, and now Anne Loughton acknowledging the crowd and getting some terrific support. She is a popular figure in these parts. Great environmentalist. Has spent time in the US studying and spent 2 years at Utrecht University. And there is the gap. Mickey Kettle's still in the race, but has dropped off quite markedly. Remember, Mickey Kettle's for much of the race was the leading Dutch woman, but you just sensed that she'd gone off too hard, and she was over a minute ahead of Anne Loughton at one stage, but then that gap came under a minute, and then very quickly, quite dramatically actually, the gap was almost whittled away to nothing. And then, as we saw live in pictures, Anne Loughton just appeared on the shoulder of Mickey Kettles, who, if she didn't already know, would have got the shock of her life. But she must have known it was coming, you can tell. There is Jill Halterman, who is the second Dutch woman on her debut. Has run 3 half marathons this year in Den Haag, in Berlin and in Hamburg. Has run 6 marathons in her career, including New York last year. Has run 2:40 and bits in the last 2 marathons, so she is also heading for a huge personal best on her Amsterdam debut. Anne Loughton has got under a kilometre to go. Really continues to work hard here. This is tough, even for the very best in the business. 750 meters to go. She can almost smell the Olympic Stadium. The elite men continue to come over the finish line. Still a trickle of male finishers, but Anne Loughton will get a terrific reception. Now she can relax. Just over half a kilometre to go. It will feel a lot more than that. The pacer doing more than just the pacing, trying to whip up the crowd. Here's the left-hand turn. Don't go straight on Anne, she knows the course. The left here, and then the right, and then the stadium, and then you know you've done it. And the stadium, the Olympic Stadium, which hosted the first marathon in 1928. The Olympic marathon won by Bougada Al-Ouafi on August the 5th. Jill Halterman not far behind, maybe making a little bit of ground, and Anne Loughton has really slowed down quite appreciably. And Jill Halterman, I wonder whether she's left it too late. Is she running out of road? I think she is, but Anne Loughton needs to just keep focused here and just get the job done. It was just a few weeks ago that she was competing in the World Championships in Tokyo. And Jill Halterman is not far behind. She has run out of road, though, no doubt about it. Anne Loughton on her way. Outside her personal best, but this is impressive from Anne Loughton. Into the Olympic Stadium, the crowd knows she's there. The man on the PA has announced her arrival, and Jill Halterman has rallied well here in the last couple of kilometres. But here comes Anne Loughton into the final home straight. Less than 50 metres to go. She retains her Dutch title just 6 or 7 weeks after competing in Tokyo at the World Championships. She's slowing down. This has really been tough today. But Anne Loughton is the Dutch champion in 2025. Congratulations to Anne Loughton. And fast finishing behind her is Jill Halterman. In the end, just less than a minute behind. A warm embrace for Anne Loughton. And Jill Halterman, well, didn't she rally well? Just coming into view now in the white vest. This will be just outside her personal best as well, but on her marathon debut in Amsterdam, just outside 2:29. So the top two Dutch women are home. That was tough. Really tough. Congratulations to Jill Holterman, and congratulations to all the finishers here today in Amsterdam. Tom Dumoulin, there is Nikki Kietels, who was the leading Dutchwoman for much of the race. So the winning time, a reminder, Anja Desta, 2:17:37. Tom Dumoulin with the race director, René Witt. Warm congratulations for him. And Loughton, by the way, was 11th in the race overall, just behind Louise Small. And a few British women competing here today. But the top six, all Ethiopian. And Loughton, Dutch champion once again. It's a really hard run here for Loughton. And here is Nikki Kietels, who will be the third Dutchwoman home in 13th place.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Only her second ever marathon for Nikki Kietels. You can just see those pictures don't really need any commentary, do they? With so many athletes flat out on the track. That's how tough it has been today. Nikki Kietels with the blonde hair coming into the home straight, raising a smile. Getting a great reception. Nikki Kietels finishes only her second marathon in 2:31 and 20-something. A fine hand from Anne Loughton. Remember, she led Loughton by over a minute at one stage. She made a contribution to the wonderful book that we've been mentioning, Finishers One. So they're the top three Dutch women. Nikki Kietels coming home in third place, and Loughton 2:28.28. Almost 2 minutes outside her lifetime best, but bear in mind and thank you very much to all the pacemakers. That's a wonderful thing. Brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed. The satisfaction will be enormous.
De dames gaan de vierde plaats pakken hier.
Presentations, of course, will be coming up a little bit later on. There's René Witt, the race director from Le Champion, the not-for-profit organisation who took over the organisation and running of this terrific marathon. There is the central station. And a reminder here of the top 10. Phil Sisman coming in the top 10 here for Great Britain. 2:03:30, a new course record for Jeffrey Kipchumba from Kenya. A surprise result today. Last year's winner, Tsege Getachew, in second place, and Getne Mola from Ethiopia in third place, with the great Haile Gebrselassie on the finish line. The women's race ended like this, with the top six all from Ethiopia. Anja Desta, again, a surprise result today for her, a big personal best. Berkatan Walde coming home in second, and Makidis Shimeles on debut coming home for third place, ahead of Makasha and Bulu. And just outside that top 10 in 11th place was Anne Loughton, the first Dutch woman home. So all the main places and all the main races have been settled now, but of course athletes will continue to come into the stadium. First of all, in a trickle, dribs and drabs, and then by greater number for the next few hours. There are over 30,000 people somewhere out on the course who will be finishing in the next few hours. Many of them running for the first time. This is not just, of course, about elite marathon running. It's about people running for personal reasons, maybe in memory of loved ones, raising money for worthy causes, for charity, maybe setting themselves a lifetime goal, a bucket list thing to do. Well, Richard Nareka's been down to do some interviews. We'll bring those to you a little bit later on. But Richard, we've been in our commentary box for the whole morning. You've been out on the track. What are conditions like down on the track at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, been very, very good conditions here in Amsterdam, as we've often seen in recent years, and that allowed the fast times that we've seen today to unfold. Kipchumba delighted with his win today in a new course record, 2:03:30, and 5 athletes actually going under 2:05, including Cheptegei, who I just had a quick word with a few minutes ago, was very pleased to have improved his best time from earlier this year in Tokyo, going more than a minute faster today in Amsterdam in his 3rd marathon, finishing in the time of 2:04:52, just 16 seconds behind the Tanzanian Gabriel Gete, who finished in 4th place. On the screen are the 2nd and 3rd place athletes. Sergei Getachew, unable to defend his title from last year, but again having a very strong performance. There he is, waving to his fans, just finishing a stride or two in front of his compatriot Gitani Mollem, being greeted on the finish line by Haile Gebrselassie, coming here to celebrate the 50th anniversary edition today. And there's our winner from Kenya, the surprise winner, running 2:03:30 in only his 2nd marathon. So a big surprise here in Amsterdam, a new course record and first big city marathon win for the Kenyan Geoffrey Kipchumba.
Terrific racing as well as terrific times. The last 12 kilometres up that men's race was really absorbing, with Gabriel Gay making those surges, Cheptegei keeping in contention. Getachew, it looked as though he might retain his title at one stage, but then when Kipchumba made his move, it was really decisive. And you'll know this, Richard, the old cliche of, if it's hurting you, it's hurting the others as well. And you could tell it hurt him, but he kept pushing.
He did over that last 10 kilometres. He broke clear, and he could have just probably stayed in front by 100, 150 metres, but he kept on extending his lead, and it was that real effort over the final few kilometres through Vondel Park that saw him come home in a new course record. Just to review some of the other fast times run by the leading male athletes. Aaron Kifle from Eritrea running a best time of 2:07:12 in 8th position. Phil Sessamon smashing his best time, running 2:07:18, and is planning to run another marathon in 7 weeks' time in Valencia. What a great run for him today, improving his best time by 46 seconds from his time in Seville 18 months ago. And Khalid Chukut, the leading Dutch athlete in the men's race, finishing in 13th position in the time of 2:08:00, just half a minute outside his best time.
That was Shimales who finished 3rd in the women's race, and well, Walde was right in contention there up until the exit of Vondel Park for the 2nd time, but it was this woman, Deixe, who made her mark, and when she made her move, it was a decisive one. No surprise that Ethiopia dominated the top 6 positions. Rose Chilimo, by the way, from Bahrain, coming home in 7th place. The leading non-Ethiopian in the women's race.
But very fast times also in the women's race. I mean, we were expecting a time of around 2:18, 2:19. They went through the halfway, the leading female athletes, in 69:11. But the first 2 athletes, Aynalem Desta and Berçkan Walde, running very strong negative splits, with Aynalem finishing in 2:17.37, just 19 seconds in front of second place Berçkan Walde, who finished with a time of 2:17.56. So the first 2 athletes under 2:18, and the third place athlete just under 2:20 in a time of 2:19.56. That was Mekles Shmeles, also of Ethiopia.
So that's the scene in the Olympic Stadium, where we are bringing this commentary and these pictures, and still a terrific crowd here. A really pleasant Sunday morning in mid-October. Men's and women's elite still continuing to come over the finish line. We're in very good club runner territory here. The live clock at 2 hours 40. Khalid Shukud. I mean, Mr. Consistency, Richard, you have to say. He just comes back year after year, doesn't he? And he's retained his Dutch title impressively again today.
Yeah, we've been talking about the age at which marathon runners reach their peak. Well, Chukut is now 39 years old and wasn't far off his best time today in his 7th appearance here in Amsterdam, clocking a time of 2 hours and 8 minutes exactly. So just 23 seconds off his best time run in Valencia 2 years ago. No Dutch record for Chukut today, but another Dutch national title. Remember, Amsterdam today staging the Dutch National Marathon Championship, with Chukut winning the men's race, and there's the winner of the women's Dutch National Marathon title, Anna Luytjen, following up a very strong performance in the World Championships 5 weeks ago, where she was 17th. Today, Anna finished 11th overall, and just in front of compatriot Jill Holterman, with Mickey Ketels, the 3rd Dutch female athlete across the line. Luytjen's time, 2:28.28, a couple of minutes off her best time, set here 2 years ago.
And Richard, you were doing the interviews at the time, but actually, if the race had had another half kilometre, Holterman would have caught her. And Luytjen just had enough in the tank and just had enough to come home, but the margin between the two was actually, in the end, only about 30 seconds. Holterman looked the fresher as she came into the stadium. She was gaining on Luytjen consistently.
Yeah, interesting, just looking at their split times, that Holterman did run a negative split going through halfway in 1:14.49, but running the second half about 20 seconds faster than that, coming home in 2:29.02. And as you say, Chris, a very impressive performance by her, Holterman, the first time that she's gone under 2 hours and 30 minutes since her run in Enschede 4 years ago.
So the celebrations continue here in Amsterdam on the 50th anniversary of this terrific event. We have the half marathon to bring you later. That'll be taking place, and the athletes now getting ready for the presentation and the medal ceremony. It's a quick turnaround, isn't it, for the athletes? But they'll be going crazy, won't they, in Nairobi today, because all the talk was of the likes of Cheptegei from Uganda, or Getachew from Ethiopia, or Gei from Tanzania. And in the end, it was a Kenyan.
Yeah, we thought it would come down to a battle between the Ugandan Cheptegei, the Tanzanian Gei, and this athlete, Tsegay Getachew. Probably started as the favourite, having won here 2 years on 2 previous occasions. But it was the lesser-known Kenyan athlete, Jeffrey Kipchumba, who has taken the title today.
From Ethiopia,
So third place in the end, Getane Mola, who had a real battle with his compatriot Getachew on his maiden marathon in Dubai in 2019, and here he is on the podium in Amsterdam in 2025.
Of the city of Amsterdam. In second place with a final time of 2:04.18, also representing Ethiopia, two-time winner Tsegay Getachew.
Well, it's pretty good consistency, isn't it, from Tsegay Getachew, aiming to win here for the third time in 4 years. Just coming up short, but he won the battle for second, and that was an absorbing contest.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, with a final time.
But who would have thought? Who would have predicted this?
2:03.30. Your attention, your respect and applause for the winner of the TCS Amsterdam Marathon from Kenya, Jeffrey Kipchumba.
Wow, what a moment. The best moment of his marathon career, no doubt about it. 2:03.30. The course record that was set up, all the pacing was set up with that in mind, wasn't it? But it still had to be delivered. And Jeffrey Kipchumba with a massive personal best. He's taken over 2 minutes off his lifetime best. And that's the mark to beat in 2026. There it is, 2:03.30.
Yeah, and Kipchumba ran a very strong negative split, went through halfway, 62.15. And the second half was running a minute faster, 61.15, to bring him home with a finishing time of 2:03.30. So very impressive finishing from the Kenyan Kipchumba, the new champion here in Amsterdam for the 50th anniversary edition.
And so the top 3 finishers in the women's race, all Ethiopian.
Third place with a final time of 2:19.56. From Ethiopia, it's Mekides.
Well, that's not a bad debut, is it? First ever marathon of her career. She was a 68.17 half marathon runner, which was in Den Haag in March this year. So the Netherlands shaping up to be one of her lucky places, and that third place was a terrific performance today.
17:56. Also from Ethiopia, it's Bertukan Lole.
Well, Bertukan, well, they said at the press conference on Thursday, I'm here to win. Came up just short, but she wasn't far off, was she? Training, she said, had gone better than ever before. Only made her marathon debut in January this year.
And now, ladies and gentlemen,
second place in Amsterdam in October.
17:37. It's your attention, it's your respect, and it's your applause for the winner of the TCS Amsterdam Marathon from Ethiopia, Dessa.
Well, Anilem Desta, destiny, it seems, was the top step of the podium today. And when she made her move, coming out of Fondle Park, it proved decisive. Broke the resolve of Walde, her compatriot, and gets the biggest win of her career. 2:17.37. The course record was never really in doubt today. They were behind right from the first 5K split, but actually she must have run a close to a negative split as well, Desta.
And now it's time for the full podium.
Yeah, the first two athletes both running negative splits. We're going to listen now to the interview with the two winners. Jeffrey, congratulations on winning the race. How was the race for you today?
Thank you. The race was good. I was well prepared to win today.
And over the last 10 kilometres, you look to be working very, very hard to break your opposition. First of all, there was the Tanzanian and then the two Ethiopians. Just tell us, how was it for you over the last 10 kilometres?
I was feeling strong, and that is why I decided to push alone to try to run my personal best.
And today it was just your second marathon. Were you surprised at how fast you ran? You ran more than 2 minutes faster than you've ever run before for the marathon.
Yes, I'm surprised because to run my personal best. Sorry.
Well, Jeffrey, we're really pleased for you, and congratulations again on becoming the winner in a new course record.
Thank you so much. So I'm still excited. Maybe we'll talk later.
Thank you. The Amsterdam Marathon Ashenefesh. Would it ir in det nubber? Einalem, congratulations on winning the Amsterdam Marathon. How was the competition for you today?
እጅግ በጣም አርጌ ጌታ ኢየሱስን ስለረዳኝ አቅም ስለሆነኝ እግዚአብሔርን እጅግ በጣም አርጌ አመሰግናለሁ በመጀመሪያ በመቀጠል ደግሞ እግዚአብሔር ረድቶኝ ስላሸነፍኩኝ እጅግ በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል እንደገና ደግሞ የሚያሰለጥነኝ አሰልጣኝንም ደግሞ ስላኮራው ካምፓኒዬንም ደግሞ እጅግ በጣም አርጌ አመሰግናለሁ ደስ ብሎኛል የመጀመሪያዬ ነው የነን ሰዓት ስሮጥ ሶስተኛ ማራቶኔ ነው እግዚአብሔር እጅግ በጣም ረድቶኝ የኛው ደግሞ በአምስተርዳም ጥሩ ማራቶን ጥሩ ሰዓት ሮጫለሁ እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን ለሚቀጥለው ደግሞ እግዚአብሔር ወዶና ፈቅዶ ደግሞ ተሻለ ሰዓት ሮጣለሁ ብዬ ከእግዚአብሔር ጋር ተስፋ አደርጋለሁ ተመልካቾች ደግሞ እጅግ በጣም ደስ ይላሉ በጣም ሞራል ሲሰጡን ነበር በጣም እጅግ በጣም አርጌ አመሰግናለሁ
So I'd like to say thank you to God for helping me win. I'd like to say thank you to my managers for helping me to win. I'm very happy to have won and to run my best time here. Yetashal Asat Sila Roch Muni Samashal. The fact that you ran your best time here, how does that feel?
እግዚአብሔር ረድቶኝ ያው ለዚህ ውድድር በጣም ተዘጋጅቼ ነበር ከእግዚአብሔር ጋር እና ያው ያሰብኩት ማለት ለጊዜው ያሰብኩት ተሳክቶልኛል ደስ ብሎኛል የእነን ሰዓት በመሮጤ እዚህም ስለተጋበዝኩኝ ደስ ብሎኛል አመሰግናለሁ
So I really prepared hard for this race and I thought I could run a good time so I'm really happy and thankful that it all came good today. And you would it munged would it tamakachoch muni yisamashalna in that dayish how did you see the spectators on the course and the whole atmosphere on the course today?
ያው ተመልካቾች በጣም ደስ ይላሉ ሞራል ሲሰጡን ነበር ከጎናችን ነበሩ እጅግ በጣም አርጌ አመሰግናለሁ
Yeah, I want to thank the spectators for all the encouragement they gave me. There was a great atmosphere on the course. Ainalam, many congratulations. Thank you.
Oh, terrific to see so many smiling faces. The two winners there with their thoughts on their performances today as the finishers continue to flow over the finish line here in the Olympic Stadium here in Amsterdam. Well, our time with you is just about up. Just time before we go to get a final thought from Richard Nerurka on today's proceedings. Richard, it's delivered again, hasn't it, on its 50th anniversary. Just your final highlights today.
Well, the organisers will be delighted to have seen another course record here in Amsterdam, beating the time of Tamrat Tola, and I think Kipchumba has really made his mark by winning here in a new course record, and I think people will be looking out for him in the future. Another great day for the event with so many participants finishing the race, still pouring into the stadium, and I'm sure we'll be enjoying their moments of elation over the coming hour as more and more come into the stadium, with over 30,000 runners running here, the special 50th anniversary edition.
Well, just as we leave you, just time to bring you the celebration and applause for Anne Lowton, who has retained her Dutch title. It was hard work, but she fought it really well and paced it brilliantly. Nikki Kietel there on her left led the Dutch race for much of the entire course, and Jill Halterman there was fast finishing in the end. They're the top three Dutch women, Lowton from Halterman from Ketels. So terrific domestic competition. So on that note, it's time for us to say goodbye. Thank you very much for your company on this very special day here in Amsterdam. I think Amsterdam has delivered once again in its 50th year. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage. From Richard, from me, Chris Dennis, and the entire team. We'll see you again in 2026. Goodbye.